This one a huge goal. Gary's got it. Swim move to the baseline. Puts it up and down. Strong move. Baseline left to the 10. Hey, Alka Isaac shoots the three. It's no good. Rebound in the paint. Run down by Mason Miller. Loose on the floor. Booster's got it. Goes up against Isaacs. Booster puts it up and in. This thing is all little. Doesn't make a bit of difference there. The Huskers are going to win it by a dozen. It wasn't that close. You'll hear the horn, and you'll hear Husker fans in the background. Final score, Nebraska 74, Creighton 63.
Students are pulling onto the field. Second time they've done that this year. They didn't have the Colorado game. And now Nebraska knows they are bowl eligible. The 8-year excruciating drought is behind us.
Yeah. Sense of relief.
Even at halftime, I was like, we turned the ball over on the 20-yard line, so they gave our offense did. We missnapped it on third down for again. We had a penalty after a touchdown that led to a good kickoff return. So, we dropped a couple touchdowns. So there was still a ton of plays that were left out there. I just think Dylan was really on, and we ran the football really well. Ja'Cory worked the middle of the field. But, I thought Emmett was, first 100-yard rusher of the season. But, also catching the ball in the backfield. The tight end showed up.
Great choice of music. Good morning, everybody. Tuesday. It's Turkey week. Good morning.
A lot of people happy you're back.
What?
Nothing against the guys yesterday. We had a good time, but
Yeah, I heard about that.
some people wanting you to flex.
I heard about Jimmy and John. Here's the thing. First of all, good morning, everybody. That's Jimmy Chavez. He's over with me. Peter Krenzer is here as well. It is a Tuesday edition of Iowa Hate Week. First of all, I know you guys got to experience this yesterday. There's just a lot of joy. There's just a lot of joy after what happened on Saturday at Memorial Stadium. Like, it's been a couple of days now. Just everybody is happy. People are happy on the X. People are happy in person. People are happy in the self-checkout line. People that are standing there waiting to get their meat are happy, even though they're fighting. They're edging each other out. People that lined up on my flight home yesterday, those people are happy, all because Nebraska made a bowl game. Isn't there just joy?
All is right with the world. The sun was shining yesterday. It was chilly, but it wasn't really that cold. I get that. People, I went to the grocery store yesterday and everyone seemed to be a little more chipper. I'm like, there's a holiday this week, right?
Yeah.
Last minute holiday shopping won't quite be so bleak.
No.
But I do find it kind of interesting, though, because you guys know this. I'm fighting an uphill battle at this radio station. Okay, there's a lot of things that I got to fight against. And one is everybody hates Nebraska basketball. Just hates Nebraska basketball. Like Josh Hodson pulls out his and tinkles on it. Connor can't stand Nebraska men's basketball. We know what we know what the three guys in the afternoon, what they think of Nebraska basketball. There's only one person at this radio station that has season tickets to Nebraska basketball.
It's not me. It's not
Wasn't
Peter.
here yesterday. Wasn't here to experience the for the next year. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with the fact that a buddy of mine at CHI on Friday night FaceTimed me at the end of the game. And he's like, Gary. He goes, listen to this. And he's holding his phone up and he's turning it around and I can hear the GBR chants. And I'm like, oh, that ain't going to sit well. That ain't going to sit well. Get me to the phones. I got to call Jimmy Allen's postgame show. So
he said it was festive.
I come back and everybody leaves. They don't have to put up with me because I'm telling you, I'd have walked through that door like Vince McMahon. I don't act like Vince McMahon, but I would have walked through that door like Vince McMahon if the regulars were here. So I'm sorry I missed yesterday. I'm sure, and I heard that, Jimmy and John handled it well, but probably not to the extent that it's time to remind everyone that it has been 3+ days since Creighton has beaten Nebraska in men's basketball. And what I'm going to do for people that are watching on 1620 The Zone TV, Jimmy, is 1620 The Zone TV working today?
It seems on my end that it should be.
Are we good? Do we look good? Look good. I haven't shaved in a couple of days.
We're on. We got the comments.
I'm going to put up a counter right back there.
There we go.
So that people can see it. People can see it. I don't want people to forget. I don't want people to forget to deal with it because you know what? We've had to deal with it for a while.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we're live and rolling. We're
Okay.
good.
All right. But
And it wasn't close. It's an 18-point game at one point.
No. But you know what? We're on to South Dakota. And like Creighton, they're on to San Diego State. They play here on the Zone today. They're out the Players Era Tournament in Las Vegas. 3.5-point favorite against a San Diego State team that playing 3 freshmen. I think that line is a little small. I think this is a bounce back, even with a discombobulated lineup. I think this is a bounce back day for Creighton, but that game will be on at 1.
Hey, all right. Early game.
We had the play. We have a post-game show today, or is that on Sportsmanlike Conduct? And will they bring up the fact that it has now been 3+ days since Creighton beat Nebraska? And
You should call in
men's basketball.
if that's the case. Just a quick little call in.
No. I don't want to.
Passes along.
I just want facts. I don't want any like, oh, well, this, and this happened. No, I just want some facts. Just give the final score. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to be petty or anything, but I do fight an uphill battle here. So I was saddened that I was not here yesterday to remind everyone, but it wouldn't have mattered because all those guys are gone and none of them will respond to texts, tweets, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone they're like acting like Nebraska fans.
Jacob did tell me to let you know that he really does want to gloat about that. He wants to really dive into that. So
we're on to South Dakota, and we're on to Iowa Hate Week. So I do have it's a question I have, because it is Iowa week. It's a shortened week. It's a road game. There's so much joy after what happened on Saturday just to get bowl eligible. This basically comes down to you win on Friday night, you're going to Tampa. Probably if you lose, you're going to Nashville. That's
not bad.
That's how I'm thinking. Yeah, it's not. You know what? Tampa's okay. Nashville, Broadway, banger.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of for both teams, for both Iowa and Nebraska. But on a short week, getting bowl eligible, the celebration, the angst of portaling, the angst of a confrontation on the field after the game that ironically, and good on local media that asked both Nebraska's head coach and Wisconsin's head coach what happened. I think I know exactly what happened. I'll explain that a little bit later. And then you've got the DGAFOC for Nebraska. Like, can we get going earlier on Iowa Hate Week? Can we find Casey from Hawks Chronicles and just get after him and remind him what a loser he is? I mean, do we have enough, or are we just living off the high of what happened on Saturday?
I think it's slowly building. Actually, I think it's a little quicker building because that pressure is off. So now you can really dive in on the game. And like you said, Tampa, Nashville, not bad options here, but you don't have to go into a Friday night game very cold at Kinnick, and you don't have to worry about.
I don't know. I would imagine there'll be a lot of empty seats.
Yeah, blankets.
I need another Hawks Chronicles meltdown.
And you'd get one if Nebraska wins.
He's a fraud. He said he'd do some stuff. He's
One
going to get off to
one of the worst.
He got banned earlier this year. People
That's
if there's so there's 2 things that I think Nebraska and Iowa fans can agree on right now. That guy, loser. And also that, quite honestly, Jay Higgins is getting screwed in the Butkus Award finalist list. The talented linebacker for Iowa. Okay, carry on, Jimmy. I just want to, I was born in Iowa, grew up in Iowa, but I'm a Nebraskan.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hype this up as a little hate week, but I don't know if we can get over the hump because there's so much joy.
Now, Rule did say something in his presser yesterday.
Did he say it's Iowa Hate Week?
Yeah, well, he said the Iowa players telling his guys
out wandering around, Jimmy.
Have a great Christmas. Have a nice Christmas. You think that doesn't stick in them a little bit? They got bowl eligible. So how about just ruining their Black Friday and go 7-5? And then you go to Tampa. This is good. I like this conversation more than had they lost Saturday and the angst and tension that would have built. I know overreaction may have been more festive, but I can get behind this. This is me talking, saying, I like the happiness. I like the joy. I'm here for it.
Nebraska Ball Mike just gave us a call in. He said, if he's Vince McMahon, I'm Triple H. He's not alone.
Nice. Nice.
Did he call into?
He did.
Did he call in yesterday?
He did.
Did he call in Friday night?
I don't know. I hope he did, but Jimmy didn't say anything. And Doug called in yesterday.
Hey, all is fair in love and rivalry games. And if one side had to put up with it for a year, the other side's going to have to put up for a year.
They held Kalkbrenner to 4 points.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Wow.
There's I got some thoughts on the game plan on Hoyball and what they did, which is exactly the same thing they've done for 3 straight years against Creighton. But back to Nebraska football real quickly here. Is there a big difference other than the bowl destination 6-6, 7-5?
Not really, but 7-5 would be a lot better. Sounds nicer.
Seventh would be against a rival. You'd win back-to-back trophy games. We'd have to care about trophies around here and put them somewhere that could be publicly consumed.
Mhm.
But I think this is going to be a slow build because there is so much joy, and it's okay to have joy. I know there was some like act like you bet. No, it's been 2016.
They haven't.
Now act like you're never going back there. That's the thing. Saturday you crossed over a hump where you can never go back. Nebraska can never go back to a point where they don't make a bowl game. They just can't. They can't. They won't. They have to have this time of the year travel agents going, okay, we could go here, 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 and here. But 6-6, 7-5, there's just a lot of joy.
Nebraskans want their holiday vacation back.
Yeah. We will talk about some portaling. Malachi Coleman officially will be headed to the portal. What other friends and family will he bring along? As I mentioned, there is the impact of Nebraska. Not only they've changed his name, it's you know that you've made it. Well, maybe I shouldn't go all in on this. You've made it as a coordinator at Nebraska if you're just a one-name guy. Because there are some coordinators that are one name, and it's not actually their God-given name. And people are like, oh, I didn't know that he was a cuss word. But like Charlie. People just went Charlie.
Oh, yeah. You say Charlie, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So now you got D-A-N-A, who, that's all Rule calls him is Dana, but he actually is a D-J-A-F. Which, if you don't know what that means, is a don't give a
blank.
That's what the coordinator is.
And that's Dana.
Nebraska.
That's always been Dana.
All right, let me give you the lineup for the show. Sam McKewon's going to stop by at 7:30 from the Omaha World Herald. He's got some thoughts. Brian Christopherson, and then Andy Kendi from KTV, where the National Sports Media Association yesterday announced the finalist in the state of, well, all across the country, but for the state of Nebraska for sports writers and sportscasters.
AK Gedler?
Andy and Lauren. So 2 of the 3 at KTV are on the sportscaster list.
Yeah, shout out KTV. All right, Andy.
Now, there are some incredible...
Lauren, too?
We have... there are times where y'all don't like us and you don't like the media around here, but I'm here to tell you that, first of all, if you work in the media here, you usually don't leave. I mean, I went away for a decade, came back, and it was basically the same people that were here, which shows you a lot about living in the state of Nebraska, working in the state of Nebraska, covering that program. And then you have some young, extremely talented journalists that have entered the market. And everybody that's on that list, and I've been lucky enough to win it.
Right.
And it's a really, really cool deal.
It's a great ceremony. I've been to that a couple times. And
so there are some on the sportscaster side. You have Lauren and Andy, Adam Kruger, who is a one-man band at KTV or KMTV. He's a hustler, man. That guy is a grinder. Good dude as well. And then you have Kevin Schutz, who is killing it in Lincoln. They're very fortunate to have Kevin at 10-11.
Yeah, shout out 10-11.
Then you have Larry Putney. Not sure why Larry's on the list. It's really confusing.
He did a good job last night. Enjoyed that.
I kid because I care. I've known Larry for a long time. But Larry is kind of the voice of Big Ten volleyball and the voice of public media. He's being recognized. But with all of the talented and deserving people that are on that list for the Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year, the National Award, there's only one person that should win that award. Only one person. And the voting is a little bit wonky. Like, you have to be a member to vote.
Right.
And I would hope that people would sign up for a membership.
I'm a member.
Because, by the way, when you win and you're not a member, they really push it on you to become a member. So I was not a member before, and now I pay a yearly fee. So I do get a vote.
Yeah, same.
I'm not going to, I have to keep my Heisman vote quiet. My vote would be for Greg Sharp, who is also on that list. There's only one person that should win the Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year for the National Award, and it should be Greg Sharp. There's great people that I just rattled off. They're all going to have another chance. Andy has won it before. Kevin has won it. I don't think anybody else has. I think there's a couple of first-time nominees. But Greg Sharp, hands down, should win the Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year. But it's a great honor to be on that list. And we have so many talented journalists that are in this state that are either have a microphone in front of them, have a camera in front of them, or have a pen or keyboard. I don't think they use pens anymore. They have a keyboard in front of them.
Typewriter.
So that came out yesterday. But AK is going to join us coming up at 9:45. Last night, high school state championship game at Memorial Stadium. It was day one of the finals. Maybe Larry should get some votes because he had to sit next to Matt Verzal and watch Verz try and pull off the turtleneck with a blue sport coat and the fabulous mustache that he has been rocking for a while.
I heard about that. I liked it.
Oh, it is such a classic look for Verz. But I enjoyed Larry and Verz, and then Larry and Damon will be doing the game today. And if you did not watch the Class A final, and I get it, you maybe didn't watch, or you did hate watching, or you're like, screw it. High school football in Class A is messed up in this state. I'm going to boycott it. Well, you missed out on some great talent that was on the field last night.
A lot of dudes on top of dudes.
Millard South has won a state title. They ended Westside's 32-game winning streak. Millard South wins their first title since 2009 with an incredible defensive performance. But the story kind of the night, and this really, I think, took the tone down yesterday, is that one of the good guys in the business and such an asset when he was at Burke and now in a short amount of time at Westside, Paul Lamanji has been in the hospital since the weekend. So he was not on the sidelines, and that has a monster impact, not only from his football acumen, but just the person that he is. He's a great leader of young men, and then the people on his staff.
They're close.
So they had to adjust some assignments. They split the coaching duties. Damon was essentially running the team, but they have a really good staff at Westside. But they also, when you're getting ready to play a team like Millard South, you got to be on point from kickoff to the end. And I thought Westside had a really good game plan at the beginning, especially defensively. They were physical, which Millard South hasn't played a lot of physical teams. Now, Millard South can be physical, but they haven't been challenged in that way. I thought Westside had a really good plan for the first half. And also, so not only do you not have your head coach, but you also don't have Quentin Warren, who at times I thought was one of Westside's best defensive players. So you're already down against a team that is absolutely loaded. But in the second half, Millard South comes out of the locker room. They make some adjustments. Their defense was unbelievable. Their offense gets a lot of love because of the array of talent that's on that side of the ball. But kind of quietly, their defense has been really good all year. And their defense at the end broke through, and it would come down to a game of who could protect their quarterback. In the second half, they were able to break Westside's offensive line, and Millard South is the state champion.
They go the length of the field in the third quarter and made it look easy. And against a really great defense with dudes, and they just, the stuff that they did, and they get that touchdown, you just had a sense that, oh, this might be the turning point. Yeah. They see their opportunity, because if not now, then when? So, hey, credit to them. State champion, worthy state champion, and credit to Westside, because that's a hell of a run, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, both teams will be back next year. They both have young quarterbacks, Braylon Warren.
And get well to Coach Lamanji's been on this show before. Really good dude.
Braylon Warren on Westside will be a junior. Jet Tomala, whose recruiting will now really pick up, will be a senior next year. They're returning a lot of talent. I mean, Westside has been dominant for the last couple of years. And Ty Wisdom coming back to the metro area, and he's the head coach of Millard South, probably is the perfect villain to challenge Westside and keep Westside on their toes. So they're not going anywhere. But Millard South, congratulations to them. They won the state title last night. It's day 2. The marquee game in the prime time will be Bennington and Scott. We'll discuss that. If you stayed up last night, Jimmy, you go to bed, 8?
I stayed up last night to watch that state championship game.
Peter, did you stay up to watch the Maui Invitational?
I caught the end of Auburn, Iowa State.
Okay, so, Auburn might have the best resume going in college basketball. Two
top 5 wins.
And they were down 18, and they came back and they beat Iowa State. So, probably in that, there was March intensity in November last night in Hawaii, or the entire day.
Early.
Yeah, man. Instead of getting in front of a microphone and saying about the over-the-back call, which was a bad call, why not say, you know what? I lost my blank, and I got a technical that hurt our team, and I got beat by Memphis. I mean, anytime you lose to Penny Hardaway, I'd be like, what am I doing wrong?
Butch McRae, come on.
But the Maui Invitational, one of the best days. So you had UConn got beat, Auburn rallies to beat Iowa State, and then early this morning, North Carolina is down 21 to Dayton, and North Carolina comes back and wins. It was like a great tribute to Bill Walton, who loved that event.
Back at Lahaina, so it's great to see it again.
Did I see that Coach Williams was courtside for that?
Oh, who does? Magic was at was in the stands for the Michigan State game. Look at when Creighton played there a couple of years ago. I mean, everybody and their brother's brother went out there. It's a great
Hawaii?
It's a great venue. I mean, look at today and the Players Era Festival or whatever they call it. It's such a weird tournament. All about NIL.
Yeah, one of 15 in Vegas.
Well, because Duke and KU play tonight. But in the Players Era, they're at the MGM Arena. Duke, Kansas tonight is basically across the street at T-Mobile. But look at now the Duke, Kansas atmosphere. I think will be really good. I can't imagine outside of there's a large amount of Creighton fans that are going to Vegas. There won't be as many San Diego State fans there. It is close, so they could drive from San Diego. But look at the atmosphere there compared to what you see in Hawaii. I mean, you have less clutter on the court, of course, because there's every line imaginable for a three-point shot on the line in Maui. And then you have, it's just there's a lot of clutter. They have the loose rims. But compare that atmosphere in, what does it see, about 2,500?
Yeah.
And then you go to
used to be no
play
AC.
at a neutral site in Vegas where, it'll be an MCI crowd, friends and family for those people that are as old as I am.
I remember we had MCI.
But we will discuss a good day of basketball. Also last night, good multi-viewing night.
Our bowl was good.
You had the basketball, you had the high school state Class A championship, and then you had the Harbo Bowl. That's a bowl.
That's a good way to start the week.
Good start to feast week.
Yeah. It's like college basketball back to Thanksgiving week, like you've talked about, like we used to be used to. The season starting, you had Maui, you had Alaska. I can't imagine why no one wants to go back to Alaska for that. Do they even still play the shootout?
I don't think it's Division I teams that play in the Great Alaskan Shootout anymore. I think Alaska. It was
great, Peter, man.
Like
it was
Alaska
great.
Anchorage probably is still in it. Alaska Fairbanks.
When did Chaminade stop getting a spot in the Maui Invitational?
I think they play. That ended a while ago. They're in another tournament. Are they in the one that Nebraska is going out there around Christmas? They may be in that tournament on the other side of the bracket.
Let's see.
See, that just sounds weird. No more Chaminade in the Maui tournament.
No Ralph Sampson and number one Virginia going down. And we're like, excuse me, what happened? Yeah, I don't think that Michigan State or UConn would be really fired up, Peter, to play Chaminade.
Although Dan Hurley would still be on one. He'd find a way.
Do you know when Dan Hurley lost his blank yesterday? That was 9:30 locally. So it doesn't matter. That guy is on one. I wonder what kind of a guy he is to work for.
I actually wonder those things too.
Maybe one of the best coaches in the country, and you take him in a heartbeat with everything that comes with it because he is a get after it guy and he can recruit and all he does is win. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, like, as an assistant, what's it like working for him?
Especially when you see 2 minutes into the game and he's already all over the refs. And you see the scores 6-4. So pace yourself, man. Pace yourself. Like you flip a switch.
Have you found Chaminade?
All I could see is that they have something called the Hoops in Hawaii Classic coming up like this week.
It's not the same.
Greg Sankey killed Chaminade.
Yeah.
He won't let him play with the chance to knock one of the SEC teams off.
Just ruined everything with this SEC Big Ten deal. Now they've come after Chaminade.
We are off and running. We have lots to discuss. After a busy weekend, I got to catch up. And also, catching up, thank you to everyone that wished me happy birthday yesterday.
I had nothing to do with whatever they did outside. At first, I was like, wait, what's up there?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they put little things in
So, I don't really... I was with my other family, Omaha basketball. And so, there were birthday wishes. I think as you get older, even if you, reach a significant milestone in your life, I don't really celebrate birthdays that much anymore. Like I don't get the emails that give you free stuff as much. The AARP card is coming. I mean, all of those kind of things.
Free pancake.
So I don't really, unless I don't really, tell people when my birthday is. So thank you if you guys said something or whatever, because all of a sudden I was getting.
Oh yeah, Jimmy and John, very nice. Said nice things.
They're very kind people.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting birthday wishes from people that I did not know, either on Twitter or DM. And then a couple of people texted me that I don't have their number, so it just shows up as the number. And usually I have those blocked.
Thank you. Who dis?
I was like, oh, well, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was it was a good way to continue a good weekend.
Rick has chimed in.
All right.
Gary just turned 35.
Yes.
Congratulations.
I wish.
Yes.
What was I doing at 35? I was making a bad life decision. By the way, got a text from her yesterday to wish me happy birthday.
Nice. All right.
When you don't have kids involved, is it awkward to get a text from your ex?
It's surprising because you don't think you're going to get one, and there you go. All right.
Was that like a one-off or
So
usually happen?
Well, so
GBR.
So we did not end on the best of terms, and I haven't engaged in 15 years. But I went and looked, and I wasn't like petty and took her out of my phone. Might have changed her name, but other than that, I was looking back through like the history. Yeah, so it's like on cue. Can you have a scheduled text? And it's actually like the same. It's almost word for word the same one. I was just a little bit.
May 2016 be your best year yet?
I was just a little bit surprised. I was gonna text back, and she's remarried. I'm like, you want some of this? You're missing it.
It's an honest question.
You're missing it.
You were thinking about me.
All right. Often runs. So thank you to everybody that reached out with birthday wishes. It really did make my day. I did not know that I shared a birthday with Greg McDermott.
How about that? You and Mac.
I celebrated in bed. Max celebrated in Vegas. Who had a better time? Whole question.
He's working. I don't know. He's probably in front of the iPad working.
Again, Creighton basketball later today to take on San Diego State.
Rematch.
Ooh, don't bring that up. That's one of the low moments in the history of Creighton basketball. 2 years ago.
Still have Bishop's rant.
Yeah, much different San Diego State team that Creighton will encounter today. But only a 3.5-point favorite.
Mac against Dutcher again. Good coaches.
Yeah, I watched Gonzaga and San Diego State, and Gonzaga could be a Final Four team. San Diego State's probably going to be okay in the Mountain West, but it might be not until, I would say, later in the season. I think this is more than a 3.5-point game coming up today at 1 o'clock.
Play a lot better
right here on the Zone. As always, you can get in touch with the program. Peter and Jimmy joining the show today. 402-951-1620. That is on the 42 Degree The Source by your mom's house. You can also email us into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Jimmy at 1620thezone.com.
Did I catch you off guard there?
No, shout out to all those that were emailing yesterday. So, all right.
Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally. Now, I have to ask the question because Nebraska Mall Mike has already called in. Did we get a Doug yesterday?
Doug did call.
Okay.
He's ready to pay up on his bet, fair and square.
All right.
So yeah, he showed up and he took his medicine.
Now here's the beauty of that game.
Now the two guys sitting here were going nice. They all were peaceful.
Here's the beauty of that game.
4 points.
Is now both sides kind of have to root for each other the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like Nebraska needs Creighton to be Creighton. I still think
I think they will.
I still think Creighton is a good team. They don't have much to back it up, but
start of a horror movie.
I still think they're a good team, but you need that Nebraska win over Creighton to age well into March. Creighton kind of needs Nebraska to not just be better than a 500 team in the Big Ten.
So you're saying that's perfect for J-Screws.
So for one night, the GBR chants the CHI. And then after that, you have to root for each other.
And they did the next day. I saw shirts being taken off. All right, well, that's over with. Give me my 15.
You can reach us on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620. You don't do Twitter.
I do.
People tweet at you. Don't you have people blocked or
No. I don't block anybody.
Hold on. I don't even know if I follow you on Twitter.
No. It's set to private because it's just always been that way, and I always said
Why
I
don't
would
you
get a
change
public. Open up my DMs. Let them all come in.
That's on you.
Get the bots going.
I'm not giving you any advice on opening up your DMs. By the way, people have noticed, like, I don't know what happened, like, in the last 2 weeks, but they've done a bot cleansing.
I have noticed a few more or a few less Would You Smash on just your normal stuff. Hey, look, football. Would you smash? What's this have to do with it? I'm trying to enjoy the fact that everybody's winning, and I had a great weekend.
It is lots of joy.
Lots of winning. Like winning.
Lots of joy, but now it's on to Iowa. Some things were said yesterday. Some things happened. We'll discuss. 38 past the hour, off and running. Sam McKewon's coming up in less than an hour. It's the Gary Sharp Show on a Tuesday morning with Peter Krenzer and Jimmy Chavez sitting in on 1620 The Zone. All right, we've made it. Well, the Tuesday, a lot of people are taking the whole week off.
As they should.
A lot of people won't work tomorrow. Some schools are not in session. This is for others, because I was having a very morbid conversation with a friend of mine yesterday.
What a day for it.
On the birthday day. He's like, this is my hammer down week. There are very few people in my office, so I can get a lot more work done because there'll be less people to bother me. So I call it hammer down week. Work through about noon tomorrow. And he goes, then I'm good. I'm like,
I can see that, yeah.
That's a way to look at this week. Less people, less distractions, get work done. But we've also made it to day 55 of 55. This is 55 straight days of football being played, college football or the NFL. It comes to an end today.
Damn, that went by fast. That means our last night of Maction, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I was at
Maybe we'll get a snow game.
Guys, I was at a Maction school over the weekend at Akron. Joe Moorhead is their head coach.
Nice.
They're not very good.
Oh.
They're not very good. They do not speak very highly of their football program at Akron.
Get them on the schedule.
Zeals.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't get
Well, so
stormed.
of course I wanted to know from the Akron perspective of what happened when they played here. But nobody is around. Like they don't have an athletic director. The football coach that was there now, he's gone. They have a really nice stadium.
Same on the other
But
side.
they play on Tuesday nights, and I think they play Toledo tonight at Akron, and they think they'll draw like 12,000 people.
Oh, the rest of them are going to miss out on a hell of a game, or at least a noble effort.
But this is day 55 of 55 straight days of football. You guys tell me, because I'm a little bit older than you.
So that means no football tomorrow.
No football tomorrow. And then only one college football game on Thursday.
I don't like it.
So and you've got the NFL, which has got a triple header on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then the NFL is starting to creep into Friday, where college football starts their rivalry weekend. Remember, the Egg Bowl used to be on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Now
I'm so used to that.
Who is playing? It's
not the Egg Bowl because that's on
Egg Bowl.
ABC
Egg Bowl will be on Black
Saturday.
Friday.
but
Friday.
it's Tulane and somebody else.
Tulane and Memphis.
Memphis playing. That's the only college football game on Thursday.
I believe they're both 9-2 currently.
At least they're good.
Good game,
Yeah.
but usually you had like a
But
couple
yeah,
of
as
couple
a
of games.
standalone game, you kind of want more.
You
Options.
had Texas A&M back in the day.
Yes.
Egg Bowl. And
Texas A&M is so big. When you have multiple hype videos are made for a game, you know it's a big game. When you have a movie that Burt Reynolds appeared in that was made off of the Texas A&M game, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, you know it's a big game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the ticket prices for that game. Hello. I know they got more money than God at Texas A&M. That's according to their current athletic
But
director.
even he's sitting in the upper level for this one.
He did.
Good seats though.
Hey.
Great seats.
Trev did tell me, because I was like, how is it there?
He
And he
donates to the Century Club.
And he, paraphrasing, said they have more money than God. At Nebraska, I'd have to make 10 calls to raise 10 mil.
Your move, Notre Dame.
I could make one call at Texas A&M and raise 10 mil. But look at the ticket prices. They're like Super Bowl range for the rebirth of that rivalry.
Yep.
So
13 years since Justin Tucker.
So do you guys know anybody that made a pact? Like, you've been single for a long time and you say to, you have a friend of the opposite sex and you're both, in and out of relationships and you can't find the right one, or you're single and you make a pact like, you know what? If we're both single at 35, let's just get married.
What
If
the
we're
hell?
both single at 45, let's just get married.
High five.
You ever had friends like that?
Ironically, right in the middle of a rewatch of How I Met Your Mother, that is a common thread on that show. I've never done it personally, but I have heard of some people.
I had one of those. Then later that year, I met my wife. So that's just how it goes.
There
Really?
you go.
Like a friend of the opposite sex,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you
yeah.
had made a pact?
No. Yeah. A friend of the opposite sex. They're like, hey, you never know. If, going into radio, it's not good for the old dating life. So if it doesn't work at 40,
Yeah, like if you're single at 40, let's just get married.
and move somewhere warm. Because at that point, why not? We're just breaking all the rules here. Make 'em up.
So my buddy, who is married, we did not talk about maybe you and I should get married, but we did make a pact. This is very morbid, and I'm not sure why he brought it up and why I agreed to it. Thinking about it about 16 hours later, we have decided that we're going to live in the same assisted living center.
That's a first. But honestly,
That just shows you the friendship I have with this guy.
but yeah, like when you get to that point, you want your buddies with you.
Yes. Yeah, at that point, whoever's available.
Exactly.
Can raise a little hell at the assisted living
Watch a little
center.
Family Feud together in the room. Maybe go
You know
wheel
what?
out, look at the ocean for an hour.
People are upset at Millard South and West Side for creating a super team. Why not in the assisted living center? You get up your buddies and you're like, you know what? When it's time, let's all get in there together. We'll be on the same floor.
I could
It'll be
get
great.
behind this.
It'll be like we're all 21 in college again.
And now you smoke weed because of glaucoma, not because of socializing. This takes away the pain.
It's not as morbid as I think now. Thank you, Peter. It's
I
like
think it's
actually a
fun.
brilliant
I like it.
idea.
It's a hell of a way to go out.
Now, as odd as I am, and I think as stupid stuff to discuss, he was the one that brought this up just out of nowhere, and I'm like, "You okay?" Said, "You everything good at home?"
That's what you want to hear right around another birthday. Hey, remember that pact we made about the assisted living center?
What are you getting at? And I'm listening.
Said, "Remember when there were 8 of us living in a house at 26th and W in Lincoln?
Ah, what a hell of a time.
What if we did that again? But this time it would be at some fancy resort type old people place." And I'm like, you know what? That's a great idea. How soon can we get there?
And instead of rooting for the night football game, we root for the 11 a.m. game because then we don't miss the brunch. We can sit out there. We don't have to miss our game shows in the evening. I could get behind this. Hell yes. I get mailers for these senior citizen retirement places. And I'm like,
They're expensive.
they are. I got to save some money here if I'm going to do that. I'm
Yeah.
41. Maybe by 50, I could go live in one of those. But
I had to do a person in my life, my mom. I had to go through that. Ooh. Homeboy did not know that it was that expensive. And some of the stuff that costs more, like add-ons, I'm like, really? Really?
Oxygen, you're going to
It's-
double
it's,
the charge for oxygen? Come on.
I was so far out of my league talking to the director of this place about pricing. I was like, I was like a Jiffy Lube, and they're trying to push an air filter on me, and I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need that. Well, if your mom falls down, and I'm like, if she falls down, she's gonna get right back up.
Yeah.
And
Tough.
the lady just stared at me, and I'm like, she's tough.
You don't know where we're from.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Sir, what's the lowest package? This is the lowest package.
But I was fired up, and also it's just a verbal thing. Like he can't hold me to it if something else happens.
Yeah.
All right. Here is Gary on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Okay.
Did you know something, Gary? Did you know something? You want to know something? Do you know that it has been now over 3 days since Nebraska beat Creighton in men's basketball?
Yeah, what a weekend.
Yeah.
Nebraska basketball, Nebraska football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I? I don't mean to jump on you there, but something just popped in my head. So last weekend was a huge weekend for GBR. Could this weekend, Friday in particular, top it? Where Nebraska volleyball in a top 5 matchup goes on the road and wins at Penn State, and Nebraska wins nighttime in Iowa City against Iowa.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
I want them
All
to
right.
go 8-5. This going into a bowl game at 6-6 is ridiculous, and I wasn't really appreciative, I guess, happy with Dylan making that young man's comment about we're going to be bowl or playoff contenders next year. But let's just take care of business now and go 7-5 before we go to the bowl game and go 8-5 for the season. So anyway, hey, main reason for calling was to wish you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Us Garys need to stick together. And also, since I've enjoyed the heck out of calling in you guys and having fun with you,
Uh-oh.
I want to wish you and your staff there a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, Gary, thank you.
Gary, I thought there
too.
when you paused, it was not going to be good, but thank you very much.
No, it's always good.
All
It's kind of funny how you talk about senior living. I'm 67, retired, and out there looking for my own place, and it's not fun trying to find a good quality senior living place for under $900. Anyway,
yeah.
happy belated birthday,
Hey.
buddy, and again, everybody there have a happy Thanksgiving.
Gary, all
too, Gary.
the love that you bring to the show. Thank you, my friend.
And we will get on the golf course in 2025.
We will. He had a major surgery.
Yeah.
So he's coming back on the golf course. Loves to golf.
Mhm.
He's my crustable, or my not Uncrustables. He is my Lunchables.
And
then,
dots.
and then the price of Lunchables went up, and I think Gary's on a fixed income, so I said, "Nah, you don't have to But great,
Everything's
great guy.
expensive.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we should start our own retirement community at the Zone. That could be a sports-minded, Nebraska-centric for people, or just sports-centric.
Now here's the thing.
There's some space in the
Here's the
listener
th-
lounge.
Look
Shuffle
at
the
you.
couches. There's a cooler down there.
Here, sit on this. It'll help your immune system.
A couple of blocks away from here, they have their own assisted living listener lounge. I mean, you're 65 and you're like, damn, where's the Husker game at? I thought where's Kent? Where's Gary?
Where'd they go?
Where'd Lyle go?
I don't like Frank's play call here.
Coming up in the next hour, Sam McKewon will join us. Those places, now, not all assisted living places are created equal.
Right.
There are some that are like palaces. Like you pay for luxury.
You get a heated seat, a big TV, an extra thing of potatoes.
Man, you guys should have been there when I was like, we had to sit down and have the consultation. And when my mom was not there, so it was me and my brother. we look at things a little bit differently.
I don't think I would have helped you. I probably would have just made things worse.
My brother and I go to Taco Bell and we spend $12 and we think that's a lot. This lady was talking like, hey, a normal 2 people going to Taco Bell costs $94. And I'm like, excuse me? She's
We
like,
have a Taco Bell
and then
in
this
here.
is a price for your mom to take the I was like, no. But
Let's
now
stay in the room.
me and my friend have made a pact that we're going to live in the same assisted living center, and we're going to relive our time in Lincoln together. when
This
we
is
were
a
in
great
school.
idea. I hope
Yeah.
this happens. I even hope y'all get a pig. Just go
Mm,
all in.
Probably that would be frowned upon. We could only do that one time.
Yeah.
All right. We got a quick update coming up next. Sam McKewon at 7:30. Also, the lead up to the video that was shared by Mr. Groove Puppet Mike DiGiacomo about the Luke Fickell, Donovan Raiola cop. There was a lead up before that incident ever happened. And it was discussed yesterday. Both coaches very, very awkwardly tried to answer it and move it under the rug. I'm going to put it back on the rug, and I think I know what happened with a very bizarre moment that people are going, I need more info. We'll try and figure it out. We'll do the John Boy reading of lips when we come back on that. Plus, Malachi Coleman's in the portal. Is it just a Malachi thing, or is it more than that surrounding the entire program where there will be big numbers, but a lot of them will be walk-ons? All of that and much more to come as we roll till 10. There's Peter, Jimmy, I'm Gary on 1620 The Zone.
It's update time.
I like this.
Yeah, we'll go a little soft music for the update today. It'll be a little bit abbreviated. It was because
Let's go.
we've got some
Peter.
we've got some basketball tournaments going on.
Peter, you're like the
Players
guy,
Era Festival.
Peter, you're like the person that's at the everybody the grocery store is going to be packed the next couple of days. You're like the person that pulls out the checkbook. Let's go. Slip the card in there. Let's go. Tap.
I do like the tap.
The tap. Millard South, they did capture the Class A state title, 27-10 over Westside yesterday, ending a historic 32-game winning streak for the Warriors. It was a game that lived up to the billing, so it was entertaining for the neutral viewer. I was sad as a Westside alum, but congratulations to the Patriots. College basketball, really good slate yesterday. The Maui Invitational, strong start, a lot of close finishes, and Dan Hurley had a little bit of a meltdown.
He's in midseason form.
He's in midseason form very early on. You'd think you wouldn't be so upset in Hawaii, but what do I know? So they will actually move to the losers bracket. Memphis moves on. Iowa State and Auburn comes down to the last minute. A last-second tip-in gets Auburn the slight edge there. They already have a couple top 5 wins. And as I said today, Creighton getting underway in the Players Era Festival, a first tournament of its kind out in Las Vegas. So good luck to the Jays out there. They will get to spend Thanksgiving week in the desert.
Done that before?
Yeah, that's a long week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they get Thursday and Friday off.
It's a weird tournament. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts with the NIL portion of it and the money. So they got there on Monday. They'll play today against San Diego State. They get a nationally ranked matchup tomorrow against Texas A&M. And then 2 days off. They could play Houston or Alabama, which would be very awkward because they face Alabama here in a couple of weeks.
On their
and
slate.
I mean, they were the last team into this tournament, but it's just it's kind of an interesting setup. Like Creighton has made a commitment to this, but I got to imagine behind the scenes, it's like a logistical, contractual, like head scratcher. But yeah, do you get 2 days off? I mean, what is Bishop going to do? What is Bishop going to do for a full week in Vegas?
I mean, he at least gets to do a show out there, but what else are you going to do the whole time? They have a great Top Golf, great place to kill time if your flight's delayed all day. I would know.
There you go.
All right, so that's coming up.
And I did want to
1 o'clock today.
Mention this. The Pro Volleyball Federation draft happened yesterday. A lot of local news. Merritt Beeson, number 1 overall to the Atlanta Vibe. And the Novas, they have a lot of local people staying or returning. They get Lindsey Krause, Kendra Waite, and Allie Batenhorst onto the team.
They're all good.
Cool.
2 of the 3 being local products.
Yeah.
Shout out Bergen Riley, won another award. I think this is a weekly thing for her.
Yes. Rinse and repeat.
Is Allie Batenhorst or Adrian Martinez the most popular former Nebraska athlete that transferred somewhere else to finish their career?
She's up there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
She is.
And they were so nice to her when she came back.
Because the head coach handled that situation really, really well.
And Saturday they were first class. Like he was nice to the Wisconsin players, and I felt like a nicer person watching that. And yeah, I would say
it's got to be Allie Batenhorst.
It's got to be Allie.
I mean, Adrian Martinez is
our
going to make
coworker,
his life right here in this community.
Former coworker,
and extremely popular, but probably not on the level of Allie. People love her. She's at USC. You should be like, nah. I think a lot of it has to do with, well, it's kind of ironic. One has to do with John Cook handled that really well, allowed her to get her degree from Nebraska. And then I think more of the Adrian stuff was, it's not your fault, Adrian. It's that other guy's fault. But that's cool. I wonder if there'll be confusion on the 2 volleyball leagues playing in the rosters and who plays where. But great for the Supernovas because last year they didn't really have a local connection. And they still had the championship year, and they drew great crowds. Now they have. I'll go watch Kendra Waite and Lindsey Krause
Nebraska player,
play.
a Creighton player, former Nebraska player.
And I think the team that drafted Merritt Beeson, don't they open at Omaha?
They do. Atlanta and this Novas, I believe, on January 10th.
Most hated rivals. Let's go. Atlanta and Omaha.
Thanks, Peter. So back to the state high school championships. Last night, Class A, Millard South defeating Westside. You saw that there are two really good quarterbacks that were playing in that game. And if you have followed high school football in this area, the quarterback development has taken on another level. More quarterback-only players are specializing so they can work on their quarterback skills all year round. The 7-on-7 has really taken off, so it helps the quarterbacks. But you had two young quarterbacks last night in Jet Tomala, who curious to see now where his recruiting goes because it's going to pick up between his junior and senior year. Braylon Warren, who is Steve Warren's son, who last night just was running for his life. The offensive line for Westside couldn't hold off that pretty robust defensive line for Millard South in the second half. But Braylon's going to be a really good player. He's got to get a little bit bigger, but he's going to be a good player, and he's only a sophomore. So two young quarterbacks playing in the state championship game. Dylan Van Dyke, who is close to setting records in Class B, has been chucking it all year for Scott. But another thing about the quarterback development in this area is it's bringing wide receivers. Millard South and Westside have really good wide receivers. They also, if you have a young quarterback, you may be attractive as a pass catcher to maybe go play with that quarterback in high school. Or say, you know what, coach, I really don't want to play running back. I'd rather play wide receiver. But Kollega from Scott is also one of the top wide receivers in the state, and he's catching passes from him at Scott. So the quarterback development and the quarterback shopping has really taken off. I mean, I hear more about 8th graders that are good spinning the ball that are being shopped in this town. That's where we're at, boys and girls.
I mean, you tried to warn
But
me.
there's also part of high schools that are doing a good job developing quarterbacks. Like Mike Huffman is a quarterback whisperer. You play in that offense and you play well, you're going to be very attractive to colleges because they give a lot of responsibility to the quarterback, and you got to be a quick thinker. Millard South is kind of building that up. Now Jet's been, Colesville was the first quarterback under Ty Wisdom, and then Jet's been the quarterback at Millard South for the last 2 years. And then look at the run that Westside has had. Cole Payton with Brett Freund, and then you get Anthony Rizak, and he's now at Notre Dame. And Braylon Warren is going to move in that direction of getting
he has a very bright future.
A good college offer. I think he already has an offer from Iowa State.
Very cool.
But the quarterbacks have started to take off. And watch Dylan tonight if you've not seen Scott play, and that's going to be a great game. Great rivalry in a extremely difficult class to get back to the state final every year. Bennington and Scott are like the poster childs of consistency in Class B. That's the primetime game tonight. That should be a really, really good game. Was earlier this year when Scott put up 38 on Bennington, which is something happened in the water in Bennington. That doesn't happen. So it'll be day 2 of the state football championships. We are blessed to be able to talk sports with all of you. We also are blessed to have Colt McCoy back on the broadcast Friday night.
I saw that. Everyone can see. Has he gotten better? Please tell me he's gotten better.
I can't say I've heard a single one of his calls since Colorado.
Yeah, is he done?
Yeah, he did. I accidentally stumbled upon one a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember who it was. It was a Big Ten game.
Is he always with Paul Burmeister?
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't. Well, I guess technically it was. Washington State. So that was it was several weeks ago, and I watched that, and yeah, he hadn't changed much since the Colorado game. So.
Yeah.
See, I still think they hired him to be a studio analyst, and then he got bumped, so they put him on as a game analyst. We went through it all after Colorado about he was on the struggle bus, and that's the first game that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And you put him on that stage with that many eyeballs, and he's already done. We've already kicked him to the curb.
He and Jason Garrett have a booth somewhere they can go work in.
Nobody wanted the Friday night Black Friday game in Iowa City. What would this crew be? Is this like the number 3 or number 4 NBC crew?
This might be 3. Burmeister's good. I mean, we like Paul Burmeister. He calls a good game, but it's
tough to separate.
Yeah.
Because you can only, as a play-by-play guy or gal, you are sometimes only as good as your analyst because you have to feed off of each other. And sometimes it's a chore to set up an analyst if they're not good enough to just jump in and know timing and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's not Charlie Jones and Todd Christensen. Rest in peace. Don Crickey, John Brody. Hey, NBC had bangers back in the day.
I love your old soul.
I know. These were the games we grew up with. Charlie Jones, you knew it was a great game from Jack Murphy Stadium. The Oilers and the Chargers.
Sam McKewon's going to come up at the bottom of the hour. Did either one of you or anybody else find it interesting that it was kind of towards the end of Matt Rule's presser yesterday and Luke Fickell before somebody asked about the video, the post-game video, Luke Fickell and his henchman, Donnie Raiola, and saying to the cop, I'm a coach. I went to Wisconsin.
This is not your jurisdiction.
Did you guys find it admirable that it was brought up or uncomfortable on how both coaches kind of talked their way out of it and did not want to bring much attention to it?
I thought the whole thing was uncomfortable. And I also wonder who nominates what member of the media to ask the question. Like, who gets designated with that? Because somebody's got to. There has to be a written agreement.
Hey, so I was watching Rule yesterday, and I was like, someone's going to ask him, because it was getting towards the end, and you were kind of running out of steam of questions, and it was a perfect spot to jump in and go, Coach, have you seen so Fickell, like Rule and Fickell both kind of handle it the same way. But I think, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going back to, remember last Monday? So a week ago Sunday, Fickell fired Phil Longo. What did Rule brought up Phil Longo on Monday. And he said it was the best game plan against Nebraska all last season. I don't think that was just, he just giving some love to Phil Longo. I think there is something, maybe it happened on the recruiting trail, maybe something happened last year, that there's a little bit of a butting of heads between Wisconsin and Nebraska.
There's your rivalry. He gets a little bit
and I mean, Fickell was agitated by Nebraska on Saturday. I don't think he enjoyed 44 points, 473 yards by the DGAF offensive coordinator. And then they started to play jump around. So, I mean, Fickell is swimming in it. They actually are a favorite this week against Minnesota. What, a 2-point favorite? That was a bad day. That was a bad day at the office for Luke Fickell. But I think there is something between the staffs that is going on. So here's my read on what happened. The famous video that was shared first by Groove Puppet star Mike DiGiacomo, owner, former television reporter at 2 of the 3 stations in town, and full disclosure, a friend of mine. So he took the video, and people have seen it by now. Luke Fickell is walking off the field, and he has got and they're Madison police. They were not Wisconsin State Troopers. They're Madison police that on the road provide security, just like Nebraska does. Walking off the field, and Donovan Raiola is coming down from the press box, so he's walking onto the field towards E.J. Barthel. Here's what I think happened. I think Donnie did say something to Luke Fickell. I don't know what their relationship is. Kind of goes into what I'm thinking is there's something between the two staffs.
Wasn't have a safe trip home.
There might have been something on the recruiting or something behind the scenes that was going on. So I think Donnie probably made a comment. Then this is where I think it escalated, and then it got really, really odd. There is another kind of lower down on the Nebraska football staff list. Somebody else makes a comment. There is a assistant coach that is walking with Fickell and the 2 cops. That guy turns and says something and points. I don't know what got in the cop's head, but he makes a beeline, he makes a U-turn, and he's going after who I think he thought that Donnie was a fan. Because, fans were coming on the field.
Trust me, I saw that at my game Saturday.
Students were coming on the field. And the person that made the comment that I think triggered the associate head coach with Fickell, the cop hears it, turns, basically is going to be like, have some respect for your elders, misidentifies the person that said it, doesn't know Donnie, thinks he's a fan, because you see he goes up now, putting his hands on him. He's lucky that Donnie did not start swinging.
That's what I said yesterday.
But
If it says Raiola, I'm not
good-
touching him.
Good on Donnie, because I think Donnie was like, "Oh, what's going on here? I'm not going to escalate the situation." And they're talking verbally right away.
Why, yes, he's my
and
nephew.
And I think the cop then knew, because Donnie handled it really well. Said, "I'm a coach." I think they thought it was a fan, and this cop was going to go after this fan, but it was actually, I think there was somebody that was coming down from the booth with Donnie that said something as well, because you see how weird it gets where he grabs him, and then they have a quick discussion. Cop says something else to somebody else, and then it's almost like he pats him on the shoulder and then starts running towards the locker room. Because Fickle didn't. I asked somebody about this that knew a little bit, didn't know what was said, but knew like was watching it. I guess Fickle just kept walking, so Fickle didn't like wait to see what happened, and that's why the cop then starts running off.
Hey,
so
where'd you go?
That's what I think happened, but I think there is something that has happened prior that is now ramped up the Nebraska-Wisconsin little beef.
There we go.
And it's, the fans, Wisconsin fans were having meltdowns on Saturday, and Nebraska was like, you know what? I had Creighton fans on Friday. Now I got Wisconsin fans on Saturday. I'm never going to Blue Sky. I'm just staying on X to engage with Wisconsin fans. But I think there's something has happened that both staffs kind of are like, And, when you put up 44 and you're feeling it, you're going to a bowl game and there's a lot of joy, you pick and choose your spots. Just my read on it. Could be wrong, but I have watched that video probably 32 times.
And that, kids, is how you get some hate going, get a nice rivalry going. Your move, Iowa. What's next on Friday?
I don't think it's by coincidence that Rule brought up Phil Longo.
I thought that too when you talked about it last week, and then I went back and
I mean, the guy got fired on Sunday, and you bring him up. You bring him up like in a glowing thing, and people in Wisconsin are going, "Fickle, did you hear that?"
Says he's a swell dude. What gives? Why is he being hired as an analyst at Nebraska now? They didn't do that.
Fickle's just angry all day. I mean, they're swimming in it. I mean, they got to win this weekend to become bowl eligible against their other rival in Minnesota. But he did not have a bad day. He looked ticked all day.
Yeah, Badger overreaction was something else.
But all right, Sam McKewon is coming up here in a little bit. We got lots to discuss with Sam. Hold on here. We need probably a theme for this. The Athletic has just dropped a bowl prediction.
Ooh. Okay.
College football bowl projections are out on The Athletic this morning. Scroll. Nebraska will not be in the playoff, if you're wondering.
You heard it here first.
This is becoming more and more popular, going back to Nashville. They have...
Tom had something about that. Yeah, trying to manifest it.
I think you win on Friday night, you go to... Now, I think this is for... I think whoever wins on Friday night's going to Tampa, either Iowa or Nebraska. I think if Nebraska loses, they're going to Nashville, which would not necessarily be that bad.
Drivable.
It's still, yeah. And I think that's an important thing because the ticket prices for airlines are going to go up. And especially if you're going to Florida or you're going to New York City, and I think the pinstripe is out.
Yeah. Put the coat away.
It's going to be expensive. And listen, Christmas time in New York City, New York City is expensive to begin with, but even more so over Christmas.
Just watch Home Alone.
Nashville, you could drive, which would be very appealing. I mean, Nebraska fans are going to go wherever the bowl game is, but if it's within driving distance,
even better.
That might change some people's opinion. The Athletic has the Music City Bowl
against
Ole Miss.
Ooh, Lane Kiffin. Okay.
So disappointment of Ole Miss's season.
And the playoff talks as of last week.
The connection, Lane's father, Monty, passes away.
He was back in Nebraska quietly.
He did come back for their celebration of life. There is the Kiffin connection, not only his dad, but his brother to the Nebraska football program.
I like this.
That get you fired up for Nebraska Ole Miss?
Yeah.
In Nashville, where the weather can be a little bit tricky, but
depends on the year.
It could be 62 at kickoff and it would feel okay.
Could be 32, but let's be honest. Nebraska's in a bowl game. You have the winter weather gear. It'll still be great.
What do you think is the most important? Because we gotta do this again. It's been a while since we've done this. Most important for a fan that's looking to go to a bowl game? The site, the date, the weather, or the opponent? If you had to rank those 4.
I'd go site, date, opponent, weather. Weather dead last. Do it all.
I'd also put weather last, and I'd have the location at 1. I think I would go opponent 2.
Does the opponent matter, though?
Well, I suppose
I
if you're going to make the trip anyway, then
Yeah, they could be playing
yeah,
a team of potted plants. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna be like, well, I'm going anyway. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
Yes, I go site and date, just so I can plan.
That's fair. I'll agree with that.
I mean, really, you could just say date and site because you're going to go, period. So you take that out of the equation. The date just okay, well, how should we structure this? When do we leave? Stuff like that. But
now, what would be curious, and I'm with you guys, it looks like Nebraska is going to play an SEC team no matter what.
just
Like
means more.
I think it's Tampa or Nashville, which are SEC. But here's the other thing. If you're looking at the importance of winning a bowl game, we may not discuss much about guys opting out, because if you're going to opt out of Nebraska's trip to the bowl game, that means you're in the portal, and the portal opens December 9th. We would be talking about guys that would be opting out to get ready for the NFL draft. Tommy Hill's the only one. Ty Robinson isn't skipping the bowl game. But think about Ole Miss, all the portal guys they have. I mean, Ole Miss could have a long list of guys that would be opting out of the bowl game.
Might have to see if one of the Mannings has any eligibility left for that game. Deuce McAllister.
Most awkward moment the last time Nebraska and Ole Miss played in a bowl game. It is back
was that 02? The Independence
Shreveport?
Bowl?
Yeah, in Shreveport. It was Steve Peterson standing on the sidelines the entire game of that just miserable season in miserable uniforms, finishing in Shreveport, Louisiana, where there were a couple of dead bodies next to the team hotel that stayed there for a couple of days. That was a bowl trip. I went down with the team, so we were there for like over a week. There's just only a couple of things I remember. One, we stayed in a casino. And there were 3 bodies. It was a bad neighborhood behind the casino. Everybody said, you do not go out walking around. There were 3 bodies that had been dead for like 2 days laying in the street that they finally found. And Dan Young and Milt Tenneper, rest in peace, were killing it playing blackjack. Oh, and then there was the game. But Steve Peterson stood on the sidelines away from the Nebraska contingent and just arms folded watching the entire time. Nebraska that was a brutal game against Ole Miss. That was Eli Manning was at quarterback. Yeah.
He's not as good as his brother.
This year would be a little bit different. I would be jazzed for Nebraska for Rule against Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the Ole Miss would have, I bet, a pretty good opt-out list.
That's a thing. I mean, that is a big thing. There's people talking about Oklahoma making a bowl. Well, I mean, they're eligible now. A lot of their team may jump. It just depends on the bowl that you get.
See, I think with Nebraska, like anybody that would opt out, they opted out
for a reason.
They opted out and they're already in the portal, or they got in the portal because the portal opens up December 9th. This would be like NFL. Got to prepare for the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if half the opponent decides to not play, that's a them problem.
People on Twitter have jokes because they're giving me people that would opt out or that they would choose that they would opt out. I think if you've been here that long and you finally made a bowl game, you're not up.
You got to go.
If you know, if you know, you know. All right, Sam McKewon of the World Herald is coming up next on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. 1620 The Zone in the mornings. Sam McKewon of the World Herald joins us. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
Good. Where do you want to go?
Wherever you want to go, I guess. I will say this: I was at a meeting last night, so I did not watch virtually any of the high school championship games, so I cannot speak intelligently about it.
I was
other than I know who won the game, and
Yeah.
Stu Pasta still did a great job of writing about it. But yeah, I was otherwise engaged last evening.
Oh, no. See, you thought I was saying, where do you want to go on the topic selection? I was saying, where do you want to go to cover a bowl game?
Oh, I think where most people want to go is will require Nebraska to beat Iowa. So that would be the Rely Quest Bowl on December 31st, playing a fairly upper tier SEC team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with going to Tampa. If you're just talking cities, I think Nashville's a great city.
Yep.
So if they want to send us to the Music City Bowl, we'll enjoy going there. And that's a fun time and not quite as hard of a team. I think it was Mike Schaefer put it on Twitter, and he's right. I don't want to see him play Vanderbilt. That's not.
No.
That wouldn't be ideal. That would be the preferred option there. Not that I don't think they could beat Vanderbilt, but that would that would be kind of a bummer. But I don't think Nebraska's any really much better than Vanderbilt, so it would be fair if that's what they chose to do.
You documented it pretty well. There was joy, there was relief, the vibe was different. It was like, finally, the monkey is off the back. The streak has been broken. It was against Wisconsin, the manner in which they did. I don't want to make any sweeping generalizations of down the road or what happens Friday night in Iowa City, but I'm going to let you do that. What do you think Saturday meant for the current team? And is there anything that happens Saturday that will mean something moving forward, starting Friday and beyond?
Yeah, so I think it means a ton. Obviously, it's a memory they'll get to have for the rest of their lives, and they'll be able to say we were the team that got back to a bowl game, and those guys will cherish that. We were the team that broke the losing streak. They'll cherish that. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be sort of upheld and honored there. I do think this Matt Rule can show the film of that game and say, here's what it's going to look like, guys. Here's what it's going to become. Recruit in 2026. Here's what it's going to become. Michael Terry, who still hasn't technically decided where he's going to college. Here's what it's going to look like. And, I really do believe that if Nebraska got the football right, what they have in place for NIL is pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. What they have in place for revenue sharing is elite. Their facilities are top 5 in the country. And Nebraska can be a cool place to go, very, very quickly. If they can figure out how to get the football right, they will not be far away from being very, very good, very, very fast. Because I think the players will come. I really do. Not all of them, obviously, but I think a lot of the players will come. And if you look at the way that Oregon and Ohio State have built their programs, they are not building their programs with guys that are from 200 miles away. There are good players at Ohio State from Ohio, but that's not their best players. Nebraska can do this, but they've got to get the football right. They have to have a couple of big seasons in a row. And if they did that, if they can convince enough recruits, hey, this thing's going in the right direction, it could get pretty sweet pretty fast. And so I think Saturday is maybe something they can show to people and say, hey, we're not just about the rhetoric. This is what we're actually doing as a program.
Sam, game 2 under Dana, and they just looked a lot more comfortable than even they did the week before. It's amazing. Yes, you're at home, but from one week to the other, it was almost night and day. Everybody seemed to start settling into roles.
For sure. So I think one of the things that Dana's been able to do is just get the ball in play. And to use a college baseball term, when you put the ball in play in college baseball, the third baseman isn't necessarily a Gold Glover. And so what you do is you're forcing college football players, linebackers, safeties to make plays that they A, can't necessarily always make, and B, don't make consistently. But you've got to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands in order to do that, right? If your quarterback's not a runner, and he's not, you got to get the ball out of his hands, because him holding that ball for 7 seconds and either getting sacked or throwing it away doesn't get you anything. And so I think Holgorsen has basically said, hey, we're going to get the ball out of your hands fast. And in doing so, we're going to let somebody go try to make a play. And in doing so, we need other guys to block. Like, I think he's probably put a logic to it that they understand and that Dylan likes. Like, I don't think Dylan really wants to sit back there and hold the ball for 17 seconds. I think he wants to get rid of the football. So that's part of the thing that I think they've done, is they've just given a little bit more tempo to the process. There's a little bit more fluidity to it. And, you know, again, are Emmett Johnson and Ja'Cory Barney the best playmakers in the country? No, but they're pretty good. And again, the defenders that you're facing are not always elite. Wisconsin does not have an elite defense. So, you know, you see things like that. And you saw, I mean, Wisconsin missed some plays. They didn't tackle well. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. But you know what? Nebraska put them in that conflict. If you go back and watch the UCLA game, Dylan Royal was holding on to the ball over and over and over again. I'm like, you can't make any plays downfield unless you throw it. And I think they're getting the ball out of his hands, and he's making some plays.
How much do you also think that the new OC, him having, I think, had the final say on the rotation at running back, wide receiver, and tight end has also helped this offense?
Huge. I'm not sure why Marcus Satterfield didn't feel the power to do that. I don't really know. I don't know if that was Matt Rule that was coming in and overruling Satterfield. I have no idea. It's hard to tell. But I did say, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago to you guys, that I felt like hiring Dana Holgorsen was Matt Rule saying, I'm taking my whisk out of the kitchen. And I don't actually know what I don't know what I'm doing to the level that Dana Holgorsen does. And so I think in hiring Holgorsen, even for a brief time, he was basically saying, I'm handing the vision casting and the shaping of this over to him, and he can do it. And I think Rule has probably taken a half step back. And that's probably a good thing. Like, I just think that's, you know, Rule has allowed Holgorsen to say some hard things in practice. I'm sure Rule said some of those things, maybe not quite as harshly as Holgorsen did, but it just didn't get through. And now I think it's probably getting through. They're like, oh, Dad brought in this guy. Well, Dad's fine. Dad's done trying to tell us. He's going to bring in the drill instructor to tell us. And that's basically what's happened. It's like, you know, Dad's like, you don't want to listen to me? All right, you're going to listen to this guy. And I think they probably like him. I think Holgorsen's a pretty likable person. He's not a jerk, not a jerk in that way. And so
Very
I think
approachable.
It's been effective.
Yep. It'd be real easy for them to just say, okay, we got bowl eligible. We're good now. But you said something in your article that I didn't realize this, that Rule said that some of the Iowa players last year were waving at their guys saying, have a good Christmas. When I read that, I see that as, oh, that's got to have their attention, because especially the way that game ended last year, that had to hurt just a little bit more. Now that you're over the bowl hump, now you can address this, which, if anything, I think almost evens the playing field if they come out with that intensity.
Agreed. You know, this rivalry is a rivalry, and Iowa does not like Nebraska. Now, some of that, I think, was fueled by Brian Ferentz, who's not there anymore. He's gone. I think his level of relish for beating Nebraska was very high, based on just some various things Nebraska had said over the years, or whatever Sean Eichhorst said. And so I think Brian pumped that thing up over there a little bit. Simultaneously, I think the other Iowa coaches pump it too. I think there's, between Iowa and Minnesota, I think there's some respect. I think there's some respect between Iowa and Wisconsin. I think between Iowa and Nebraska, there's a real pleasure on the Iowa side of kind of shoving it in Nebraska's face. And so Nebraska, I think, has gotten to that point where they feel the same way. And some of that's the way that Iowa reacts. You know, they blew kisses 5 years ago. They did the waving goodbye last year. They're a different program when they play Nebraska. I think Iowa's a pretty respectful program overall, but that one game, it brings out something in them. And I think it's personal a little bit to Ferentz and to the others over there. And so Nebraska needs to match that. And I think Nebraska's finally starting to get around to matching that. I think you've seen Nebraska basketball begin to match that in the Creighton series. In fact, I say Nebraska wants that game more now than Creighton does. And I think you've seen that the last couple of times in CHI. So, I think Nebraska football's finally getting there with Iowa, and that's a good thing. It needs to be a rivalry game, and it is now.
Sam McKewon of the World Herald joining us. But with Iowa, they're going to do what they do. They're going to play good defense. They're going to have good special teams. They're going to hand the ball off to Caleb Johnson. They might run it in a cold night 60 times.
Right.
Jackson Stratton appears to be the guy that will start, but today Kirk speaks to the media, and there is the outside chance that Sullivan could be available, but they'll start Stratton, and Cade McNamara is not even on their depth chart. So with that said, an area which we are all trying to figure out and just make it through the season is the defensive backfield, and we all go, what's going on? What do you think that deep dive personnel philosophy looks like in the offseason with John Butler involved?
That's a great question. I think there's going to have to be just a sense of who the personnel is, right? You're going to have to let the transfer portal shake out. I think we feel confident Tommy Hill is leaving, right? He's going to the NFL. And Gifford is gone. Singleton is gone. So that's 3 starters that you have to replace right there. I don't think their preference is to have Buford and Hartzog playing corner. So can you find a couple other corners? Is Sear Wright going to go to the NFL? Does Sear Wright need another year? I don't know. I think that's going to be a question that Sear's going to have to examine. He's played college football for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So this isn't like, he's a redshirt sophomore. He's been around, and maybe he wants to come back and improve his draft stock, and they'll probably give him some NIL money to do so. So I think they may keep him, but they have to find new personnel, and then I think they have to decide what they want their coverage strategy to be. And honestly, Gary, some of this has to do with the linebackers. Can those guys take a leap in their coverage skill set and in their ability to stop the run? Do they have a jack linebacker that they feel really good about dropping?
That's a great point.
It's hard to say, and do they feel like John Bullock is gone. So do they have a guy that can, drop into the hook zone and do the things that John did? Because John was pretty good at that. John was arguably better at that than even the guys they had last year. So, and they hit a couple RPOs. Wisconsin did for sure. I have to go back and chart who they hit them all on. Some of them I think were on Bayer. So there's a bunch of different things they have to examine, and then they have to decide what kind of coverage structure they want. So long as you're in that 3-3-5, you have what's called a split safety or a rover, and it naturally tends itself to cover 3 because you've already split the field up into thirds anyway. And so, it naturally lends itself to that. But I know they tried more cover 2, and they've obviously gone man. Now, some people call man cover 4 because it functions like that. Some people call it cover 0 is a 0 blitz where it's just tight man to man. So they have a bunch of different coverage strategies, and they have to decide what they like. I know that what Iowa does is Iowa chooses to play quarters/cover 2 coverage. It's a little bit of the same thing, but they play this kind of a specific kind of coverage, 4-man front, linebackers behind it, and they do the same thing over and over again, and they try to perfect it. And Nebraska is much more exotic. And I do wonder if the day comes when Nebraska's like, our personnel is good enough that we can make the package of things that we do smaller so that we're not literally blitzing ourselves into a problem. Because sometimes Nebraska will put itself in a coverage or a run fit bind based on its own aggression.
Sam, I'm not trying to sound over dramatic here, but biggest win of the rule era, considering the topics and the conversation that could have ensued, if not?
Yeah, absolutely. Wisconsin was the biggest win of the rule era for sure. Yeah, and maybe the biggest win of the rule era for several years, even if they get better. It was an enormously important game, and it could be the turning point in his tenure. I compared it on Monday to Fred Hoiberg, and I don't know what that game was in Hoiberg's tenure. Probably the Creighton win that he had in year 4, but just some of those performances that Hoiberg had in his 4th year remind me of what Rule's doing now, of figuring out the culture. This is my opinion. I think Matt Rule would disagree with me, and he's free to. He knows way more than I do. I don't know that making the roster smaller is going to be a bad thing. I think that they had too many guys on the roster who were probably not going to be thrilled with sticking around and not being sure what their role was going to be next year. So I don't know that Matt Rule making the NCAA forcing Matt Rule to make the roster smaller is going to hurt him as much as I think we've been said. I think Matt Rule can handle a smaller roster quite well, actually, and may actually benefit in some ways that he hasn't yet. So I do think that it was a turning point win, and I think they can do some good things from here. Beat Iowa? I don't know if they'll beat Iowa. Iowa, I think, is pretty darn good, but I do think they can win a bowl game, and I think they can have a great launching pad for next season.
Get ready for a heavy dose of Caleb Johnson on Friday night.
Yeah.
Sam, happy Thanksgiving to you and your wonderful family. Safe travels over to Iowa City.
All right, take care.
That's Sam McKewon of the Omaha World Herald. Tim Lester was the best thing that could have happened to Kirk Ferentz. Their offense is more now that they're down to walk-on quarterback. They're not as dynamic, and they've never really been dynamic at the passing game, but they have run it differently this year. They've scored points, which is the biggest thing. Caleb Johnson, though, so he carried a ton against Maryland. They ran the ball 57 times against Maryland. They don't really have a desire to throw the ball down the field, which could play into the hands of Nebraska. But you got to be able to tackle Caleb Johnson. He's got over 1,000 yards after contact. But his longest run in November has only been 16 yards. So is he starting to wear down? I mean, he's had an unbelievable season. He might be the best player that Nebraska's played against this year, outside of Shedeur and Travis. And I'll give you the trio of wide receivers for Ohio State. I'm talking about Nebraska defensively, because Caleb Johnson. Think about this. He is at, when I write this down, 1,492 yards rushing, doing that without a passing game.
Yeah,
he's a running back of the year in the conference.
Yeah,
and probably should end up on the top 10 list of people that are getting votes for the Heisman. Even if he gets 16 third-place votes. Caleb Johnson's had a great year. So I expect a heavy dose of him, so it might help the defensive backs. But Nebraska's going to have to tackle. They have to be tough. They're going to be physical. The weather will dictate that. But Tim Lester is that was a really good hire because they're also running the ball a lot better than they did last year. And it's not all Caleb Johnson, even though it appears to be all Caleb Johnson. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Sam said something about Matt Rule and his relationship with Dana Holgorsen that I think also needs to apply to the defensive coordinator. We'll get into that as we wrap this hour. Brian Christopherson and Andy Kennedy still to come on this Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving and football, hell of a combo. We got one more show before we say goodbye for the week. We got a couple more hours left with all of you on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, later today, Creighton in action out in Vegas. They take on San Diego State. Tip is 1 right here on the Zone. After the top of the hour, I'll get into something Sam said about Dana Holgorsen and Tony White and Matt Rule in the middle as the head coach. We'll do that when we come back because I do want to mention this. Last night was the Class A state final. Millard South beat West Side. Today is C1, C2. It is basically a celebration of football in the city of Wahoo. And then you have Bennington and Scott playing tonight. But there is some significant news in the coaching circles in Omaha in a email from Jeff Govier, who used to be the football coach at Papillion La Vista and is now superintendent, I believe. I think Jeff's the athletic director. Whatever. In an email this morning to football players and families, it was announced at Papillion La Vista that Tim Williams will no longer serve as the head football coach at Papillion La Vista, effective immediately. So Tim, who was at Waverly and then came to back to Omaha working at Papillion La Vista, and it really turned that program around. I mean, they had a whole different vibe. They won a playoff game this year. Last 2 years have been really, really good. But in an email to players and families, Papillion La Vista's Tim Williams is no longer the head coach. All right, halfway through on a Tuesday, there's Peter and Jimmy. I'm Gary on 1620 The Zone. All right, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome back in. 1620 The Zone. Peter Krenzer, Jimmy Chavez joining me today. I'm working with two guys that are younger than me but have an older soul than me.
Thank you. Yes. I would agree. You are the young man of the show.
Wop, wop, wop. You guys are like, hey, Frank Sinatra.
You brought up the segment about the deal of the pack about getting your guys together and living in a retirement community. I'm like, already got a list of people who I might have to think of. This is good. Yeah, I'm all for this. And while we're piling on, I had oatmeal for breakfast this morning, and maybe I'll have an Ensure for lunch. Oatmeal is delicious. It's cold.
We have a Brett McMurphy update. Does Brett McMurphy do projections for bowl games every day?
I hope
It
so.
seems like
I'm
it's
here
a
for
daily thing.
Yeah.
I see a lot from him on those.
I can see like the playoff bracket that comes out tonight, but he has got, I think he had this yesterday as well. He's projecting Nebraska to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
And Rule's like, no, I don't want to go back there. Nice city, but I don't want to get booed at my own bowl game. But you can get dumped with Mayo.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that
But
either.
there's, you know what? The Duke's Mayo Bowl sounds fun. It would be against an ACC team. Brett McMurphy on actionnetwork.com has Nebraska-Syracuse. But the hang-up, it's January 3rd.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska, and they may not be in a position to pick and choose, but they do go, you see all these people are going to come with us? January 3rd, I don't think would vibe with Nebraska.
No. When you said Music City, everybody lit up. The chat lit up. Everybody was already thinking about Nashville and Lane Kiffin because it's before New Year's. It's perfect. Your holiday trip, extended days. January 3rd reeks of, I don't know, guys. We got fly in on Friday, game Saturday, and fly back Sunday. Nah, that's not the same. Good bowl game. I mean, I've heard the people that put that on, that's a really good event.
It's a fun city. Might be a little bit chilly. Charlotte is no Nashville.
Yes.
Around New Year's Day.
Yeah, a little different.
But January 3rd, you would have kind of the day to yourself, but still, I think in terms of the calendar, it would be.
Yeah.
They moved the Bahamas Bowl to January 4th. Didn't that used to kick off the bowl season?
Yeah, pretty much.
It did, yeah, I used to.
About a week before Christmas, a little more than a week, 10 days.
So there would be two games on January 3rd, the First Responder Bowl in Dallas, which also is Big Ten ACC.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Brett McMurphy. Earlier, The Athletic has the one that's a little bit juicier, Music City against Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
What I really care about is the Hawaii Bowl has returned to its rightful place on Christmas Eve. Why they ever took it off of there, I don't know.
Peter, man, let us tell you about the great thing that was the Aloha Bowl, which was preceded by the Blue-Gray game on Christmas Day. It's tradition.
Peter, I will love you long time if you start dropping knowledge of the Blue-Gray game.
Rest in peace.
I'm at my Uncle Bill and Aunt Mary's place. Like we go there for Christmas, and the Blue-Gray game would be on.
Yeah.
It would be glorious.
That's where I first learned what Kelly Tires was. It's the Blue-Gray game.
And then I would get triggered by players not wearing their normal helmets, and they would have stickers. They'd exchange stickers.
Yeah.
I did not like that at all. Just Google it, Peter, or go down the YouTube rabbit hole of Blue-Gray games that Nebraska never had a guy in. You know why?
Because they were preparing for a bowl.
Yeah, Nebraska was playing a week later on January 1. All right. Brian Christopherson and Andy Kendi is going to join us here in a little bit. Our chat with Sam McKewon, he brought something up. So Nebraska is benefiting greatly from an offensive coordinator that has full power. Running back, wide receiver, tight end rotation. I think Rule prepped Dana of what he liked, didn't like, who he liked, didn't like, and said, you need to go in there, or you go in there and you do Dana things. And basically it is to the players, because they did this the first week that they went live with him watching. Basically, show me the way. Or not show me the way, show me why. Show me why you should continue to be playing in the last 2 weeks or the last 3 weeks of the regular season. It was kind of open tryouts, but not open tryouts. Do your job, show up on time, work hard, make plays, execute, show me why I should continue to play you. And you are seeing the result of that, of who is playing and not playing. But Dana has control over running back, tight end, wide receiver rotation. It's making a difference. You don't think Emmett Johnson has benefited from staying in a rhythm and staying on the field?
I like you. You're going to play.
You don't think the offensive line? We didn't get into this with Sam, maybe with BC. I think, Jimmy, Emmett's had a little bit of resurgence. Guys are executing better. Wide receivers are blocking longer. 2 tight ends who didn't get a lot of run, but they were on the field but didn't get talked about much. Lindemeyer and Borkacher have surpassed Fedoni. Again, show me why you should be playing, not only in practice, but in a game. If you show me why you shouldn't be playing, you're not going to play. So maybe you only have 3 snaps against Wisconsin. And the next thing you know, mom is responding to stuff on the internet, which is never a good thing once you go down that path. But I think another impact of the DGAF offensive coordinator, and if people don't know what that means, don't give a, and Nebraska is something they absolutely needed, is I think there's an effect on the offensive line. I think the last 2 weeks, Nebraska's offensive line have blocked more plays that should be a touchdown. Either they turned into a touchdown or there was a mistake by a running back. But the effect on the offensive line, the offense looks like it's fun to play in. You don't think much. You just go and do your job. Just do your job, less thinking. And I think the offensive line has had a direct effect of that. I like how they've played the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Look at Dylan already putting his arms up. The ball just got handed off at the 5-yard line on Saturday, and he's already telling you touchdown. Lo and behold, holes there, touchdown. There's a swagger to them, little bit of an edge. And I've noticed that too. I noticed that last Saturday against USC.
The offense, and I know when you put up 44 and you have 473 yards, and it seems like every single play that's called works. It is fun to play in. But when it's fun to play in and you feel like there's a rhythm and there's a sense of purpose about things that are being called, and things are being called that maybe in practice you repped and you were really good at, and you're going to rep it again in a game, and the people that repped it really well are going to be on the field with you, I think it's all encompassing. But turning over the offense to Dana Holgorsen, can Rule do the same thing with Tony White? Rule's a defensive guy. This is the transition. Sam alluded to the Fred Hoiberg, Nate Lesnar, Abdel Massey. Trev says, you got to get that dude out of here. They have to make a change. Different guy. Now, Nate's not a DGAF guy, but if you watch the video that Nebraska basketball just put out of their cinematic recap, go to the 5-minute and 41-second clip, and there's Nate in the huddle. So you have, I don't know, bad cop or tell it like it is because you want to walk the fine line as a head coach. So you turn it over to Dana on the offensive side of the ball. You're a defensive guy, and you've dabbled more than you did last year on defense. Making your opinion known, the way they're running the defense, challenging the defensive coordinator. Didn't do that last year. This year have done it a little bit more. Can Matt Rule make the transition in year 3 of just being a good CEO?
Which is really good at.
As of right now, you have 2 coordinators that are both head coaches. One has been a head coach, one eventually will be.
Let them cook.
Can you just let them go, and you're the figurehead that runs the program, and you made 2 good additions and let them do their job? Can you do that in year 3? Because we're going to have multiple shows and segments on what happened to the Nebraska defense this year. It can't just be the offenses were tougher, the opponents were tougher. Nebraska's defense went from wanting to be elite to they're good. They're not elite, they're good. But it has to be more than Evan Cooper exits stage left on July 1. In comes this guy that nobody knows named John Butler, trying to bring him into the fold. Injuries, guys making business decisions while they're out there playing ball. Young guys coming and going, like where's Lenhart and Prince Will? We got to put the defense when the season is over under the microscope about whatever went wrong and get it fixed next year where the defense is good. It doesn't matter who their opponent is. You want to hear about the 3-3-5?
They just run their stuff.
They're a good defense. They play well. They execute. They fly to the ball. They're going to be a little bit younger next year, but they're going to be faster because things haven't lined up consistently enough on defense. And I don't know if the questions that are being asked all have answers right now with, a maximum of 2 games left. But I would love to see if, you have the 2 coordinators stay, they're 2 head coach type guys. You let them run their side of the ball, and you run the most important thing, and that is being the head coach.
And you just kind of get out of the way. And before you know it, you're on the verge of, whoa, we were just talking about what happens with another 5-7 season. And now a few months later, talking about this thing could really click. The offense is there. The defense is there. Yes, I know they'll address the special teams, but you have to. But is it maybe not as far away as people thought? But then compared to, say, 3 weeks ago, what people were saying, including our friends on the chat and everybody on Twitter, and about, whoa, this is a mistake. This isn't working. And all of a sudden it's, well, you got Dana. All right, Tony White's fixing up the defense. That's how you take 7-5, 6-6, and turn it into 8-9. Dare I say, start getting to get higher.
And it's, sometimes it's not easy. I mean, we went through a phase where wanted the head coach to be a CEO, and that was not in his wheelhouse. I think Rule could be a good CEO.
Yeah.
But you have coordinators for a reason, and, you might have a good combo of coordinators where one is experienced and really good, and you've seen the impact. Can they have that kind of an impact on the defensive side of the ball with a DGAF attitude? Tony White he's got a different personality than Holgorsen, but he still is very intense, and he's competitive, and he teaches well. He just is not as well known. And you never know what'll happen in the offseason. I mean, we all that defense wasn't as good, so Tony's not going to be up for head coaching jobs. I mean, if I'm a head coach or an AD, why would you not look at Nebraska's defensive coordinator? Whether open job in the power chair or in the power chair of being a DC. I think there'll be a couple of guys on Nebraska's staff that would be of interest to other schools that may come calling in the offseason.
Think of how you said Tony, how he sounds the part. Every time he talks, you don't listen to him.
They're preparing him to be a head coach. You hope that's his next move from Nebraska, is being a head coach. The other part of the what happens next with assistants and staff and Dana having control on the offensive side of the ball, there's going to be a couple of openings. Is people will want to come work with Dana. They
want to pick his brain.
Satterfield is not as well known in the industry and doesn't have the rep where he has a coaching tree. You say, if this is Holgorsen, he goes, hey, because of circumstances, I got a couple of spots open, and he's able to kind of move you towards who would be good for that. I think there'll be people that would be attracted to come to Nebraska and work with Holgorsen. I think the same thing about Holgorsen being given a lot of power on the offensive side of rotation in game. If you have staff openings, you let Dana, because he has to work with them, because I imagine right now we're working together, but this is my show because I'm here to get us through the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Is he has to find guys that he's comfortable working with. And then I think another part of adding Holgorsen is you have to let him direct where you're going with portal activity. And maybe in this last couple of moments before December 4th gets here, when recruiting, when signing day or whatever they call it nowadays happens, you also have to let him direct what guys he sees that would be good for the offense.
Buying the groceries.
Yeah, you're not out there recruiting, Dana, but you point out who you think, and then we'll send our henchmen out there and our bagman to go get them.
Yeah. And that's part of letting him cook. All right, I brought him here to fix the offense. Part of that entails turn him loose. I got his back.
Well, I think that's only fair. If you have a great deal of respect, and Rule clearly does, and he sees the impact early on, and you're trying to get giddy and think, okay, with a piece here or there and another year, and we've got this whole offseason to work with the offense and put things in, and he knows the personnel now, what we can do, it only makes sense that you would say, Dana, I brought you here for a reason. We're going to keep you here for a reason. We're going to let you surround yourself with players and people that you're comfortable with, and I'm just going to let you cook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because if you cook, I cook, we all benefit.
Everyone
And
eats.
then you can, in at least 2 or 3 years, help. You've been away from the game. You're still young. You'd be 55, 56. You could go get another job.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a group of 5 job. It would be possibly staying in Power 4 because after he got fired at Houston, I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Yeah. And it might just be a lot of fun for Dana. It's like, hey, I'm not a head coach. I don't do all that other stuff. I do ball. That's what I do.
That's a good point, Jimmy, because I think you're seeing that right now.
Chip Kelly.
They don't have to deal with all the other stuff that goes with being a head coach. They can just go out there and call ball.
It's fun.
That's what
it
they
pays
can,
well.
That's what they can do. They can sit in a room for 15 hours during a day and just diagramming plays and what they're going to do instead of, hey, I can only give so much here because now I got to get into recruiting. I got to, I got to make a quick phone call.
NIL event tonight.
I got to go NIL event. Yeah, but I think once you're a head coach and you get the itch, it never goes away and there'll be opportunities, but the opportunities can be a lot greater if you get a quarterback to the NFL and you turn around Nebraska and the 44 and 473 from Saturday is not just wow, that hasn't happened here in a long time. You go, you know what? That should happen multiple times during a season.
Damn, they make it look easy.
All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, there was news yesterday. Malachi Coleman is into the portal. He will not be the first. You are in a situation where there will be a lot that go into the portal because Nebraska has a large roster and it's full of walk-ons as well. So they will have to technically go in the portal as well. So when rule says 45 to 50 and you go, oh my God, that has a lot to do with it, but it's time. It's down to 105 and there's going to be some hard discussions made. You just hope there's guys not going into the portal off the roster that you go, whoa, didn't do that with Malachi. But I think we may have uncovered Nebraska's version of the Madden jinx after the news yesterday and activity on the football field or lack thereof on Saturday. We will discuss that. Plus, we will talk some basketball. I didn't get a chance.
People ask. They want you to cook.
I didn't get a chance. I did not get a chance.
I have receipts. I have emails. Tell Gary to get back. We need somebody to flex.
We'll do that before we talk to BC coming up at 9. It's the Gary Sharp Show with Peter Krenzer, Jimmy Chavez on 1620 The Zone.
It's the bowl game blowout, $15K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Enter to win big this holiday season with $15,000. You can do it now at 1620thezone.com. And while you're there, just make it a one-stop shop and join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on The Zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, and more. Hey, we just had a birthday. Where's the cake? Sign up today, 1620thezone.com.
Thank you, Jimmy. Tonight, the next go-around of the playoff rankings and bracket will be announced.
Oh, Indiana.
Where do you guys think Indiana will be ranked?
Should be in it.
So they were sitting at 5. I think somewhere around 10, 11.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I think 12 would be too far of a fall.
If they drop them off
Dropping them off entirely, I cannot see that happening.
I don't think they will. I think the Big Ten has got 4 spots, but what happened on Saturday knocked Indiana out of hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, that's
they're in, but they should not be hosting a playoff game, and I don't believe they will. So I could see them at 10 or 11 that they will be ranked when it's revealed tonight.
Their own game didn't go great for them, but about every other result that they needed to go their way did. The SEC had a terrible weekend, so a lot of those spots are going to shuffle, and yeah, we'll see.
It was a great weekend.
I think we might see some storylines develop in terms of matchups because I'm seeing a lot of Notre Dame hosting Indiana.
Oh, I get behind that. I got Indiana winning that.
Intrastate showdown.
Notre Dame is...
and I like Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's played really well. They kind of get a mulligan for losing to a 6-5 Northern Illinois team.
Friend of the show, Thomas Hammock. Yeah, Indiana at Notre Dame. I can get behind that. That's actually the part. There are 2 things about this playoff that I'm most intrigued about. One is obviously what we talked about, the Southern schools going to northern climates, which are finally starting to act like northern climates. And the second part is some of these juicy matchups. That's what it's about. That's what we want.
Could see a Georgia-Tennessee matchup between the hedges.
I would watch that again.
And then the other one would be, why couldn't this have happened back in the day? Miami at Penn State. Miami in the middle of December playing in State College.
Vinny Testaverde just threw another interception.
God, and I hate Penn State. It's such an empty-calorie football program. They're the ones that have to carry the banner for everybody that had to go down to Miami and play Miami in the Orange Bowl when it's 85 and humid. Mm-hmm. And we're thinking, wow, what if they ever came up here? And in 2024, it'd be Penn State that gets the opportunity.
Watch it be 60 that day. That'd just be hilarious.
Ideally, it would be that rare day, 71 at kickoff. They play at afternoon. James Franklin is in like a quarter zip.
Yeah, the referee's in short sleeves.
Miami guys are like, wow, this is really too warm.
This is the cold, huh?
This is really too warm for us. But yeah, we're all in agreement that Indiana will be in. Will not be hosting a playoff game.
They'll take care of business on Saturday, the old Oaken Bucket, and they'll be in.
Okay, I have first of all, I think I said Thomas Fidone's mom. It was his aunt that commented on a post. Do we have the Nebraska version of the male athlete Madden jinx?
You've convinced me.
So I was at my local Hy-Vee.
Shout out Hy-Vee. I was at my local one yesterday too.
Big day.
Big day.
You know, there are 4 athletes that are in the NIL for Hy-Vee.
This isn't a Caitlin Clark thing. That was last year.
2 volleyball players. And then Malachi Coleman and Thomas Fidone. So Malachi Coleman is in the portal. Thomas Fidone played 3 snaps. And we don't know what his inventory will look like for Friday night against Iowa. But strange career, not the same explosive player before the knee injuries. You could turn a battleship sometimes faster than you can turn Thomas Fidone. Maybe mismanaged a little bit in this offense this year in the way they put him. Or times they used him and you went, yeah, that's how he's supposed to use. Times he didn't. But it's been a up and down, discombobulated career, and it just has the feel that we are headed towards shrinking of a roster and maybe need a new place of residency. I don't know that, but it just... I've seen this enough where it looks like we're headed down that path. So those would be 2 guys on the Hy-Vee banners because they're everywhere. You go into your local Hy-Vee.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere. everywhere.
It's true.
They might be even more Omaha area Hy-Vees than Caitlin Clark was.
And that's big. That's big if true.
But it might be a jinx.
No.
It's the male Madden version jinx with Nebraska's NIL.
I can hear Rule now.
With Hy-V.
Keep Dylan off that thing.
Yeah. Barney shows up next year. You're like, nope. Tear that poster down.
We got other stores.
That poster's not going up.
It loomed large over the candy section during Halloween at my Hy-V. It was just all over the place.
Get that candy.
Can't
you can
miss
look
it.
like us.
Let me pose this question, and then I'm going to give my thought on Malachi. So, I don't know if anybody's doing a victory lap saying, well, told you so. It's a formality. But there was part of me that when he flirted with Colorado and said yes to Nebraska, that I wondered, and this isn't new because I did say this on air, will this be a guy that will play his entire career at Nebraska? I think when you look at a guy like Malachi Coleman, you have to separate Malachi, the young man, and Malachi, the football player. I think they're completely different. I think Malachi tells his story and has a huge heart for doing what he wants to do. On the football field, not doing what you need to do to hold up your end of the bargain, because Nebraska celebrated his commitment. Local kid, first recruiting class, dynamic athlete. We think we can fix him. We know that the previous staff had to stay on him, but we need that guy, okay? We're early here. That's a win for us. But it's a two-way street. If Malachi Coleman was a senior in high school now, and you look at Nebraska's roster, and now they've been in, this will be their third go-around in the cycle, do you think Nebraska recruits Malachi Coleman as heavily as they did? And remember, this staff had to pick up the recruiting because Mickey was the guy for Malachi. I mean, Mickey and Malachi developed a really tight relationship. Like, Mickey stayed on Malachi all the time. Why aren't you up? Why aren't you working? Get in school. Get good grades. You got to do this, this, and this. Okay? Mickey basically was Malachi's wake-up call. Mm-hmm. Mickey's not here. New staff comes in. They know that we got to continue to recruit him. Colorado's coming in. We can't lose a guy to Dion. He's a local kid. He's right down the street. He's at 70th and A. And so they win, and you see the reaction because they're like, man, we had this guy, and now, hey, man, this guy we may be able to unlock something here. Do you think they would recruit a Malachi Coleman today?
Only if Dana said, I want that guy. So to answer your question more specifically, I don't think so. For a lot of the reasons you said. There was just that relationship with Mickey. For all we know, they had different ways that they wanted to use him, but this wasn't this staff's recruit. Sometimes it just goes that way. It's not personal from either way. It's what's best for the program, but it's also what's best for the kid.
Yeah, and good point. And I'm with you. I'm going to take this I'm going to add to this, is probably Malachi in his development of learning what it takes to be a football player at a Division I school, that it's much different than being a wideout at Lincoln East High School, in what you got to do and how you got to do it every single day. You can't be lazy in the route running. You got to stick to the process. You got to be strong. You got to be mentally. Things are not going to be like they were previously. You're going to have your ups and downs. He probably played too early. And the red shirt part of it, but they were forced last year to injuries, probably should have happened last year. And then he got banged up and he fell behind, and they recruited over him. That's quite simple.
They had to.
I think they made an early judgment on Malachi, and they started to recruit over him. And Malachi wasn't able to overcome that. And now the convenience of 105, a guy that probably is not in your future, you wish him the best. You're going to help him find a spot. And I hope that he finds a better place.
Same.
I don't think it'll be a lateral move. I think he will have to go down. But he'll also have to say, you know what? I got a lot of good things in my life. I got a good story to tell, but I also want to be a football player. And I want to be the football player that everybody talks about, that probably you haven't seen since he was a junior in high school.
Mickey's at Grambling now?
Yeah.
I thought of that when this happened.
Hey.
I was like, hey.
Mickey Joseph was enormous for Malachi Coleman. Mickey stayed on Malachi. And I think that then you went into a wide receiver room where you basically have a coach that's your age. I think that was tough. But the one thing I always said about Malachi, and we talked about it on air, is I didn't like him as a senior. I watched him as a junior and I thought, wow, there's something there. But now you got to start working at your craft if you believe you can be an NFL wide receiver while you're a senior in high school. And I saw too many plays in high school that he took off. And that's when you can be the most dominating player on the field, that's a red flag to me. But again, I'm thinking he'll get inside of a structure where he will have competition, that guys in that room are better than him, and now he's going to have to work for it. And for whatever reason, it did not work out, and now he is in the portal. But and wish him well. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys in the portal that we're all going to go, man, I watched that guy in high school, and wish him well, move on. But in Malachi's case, I think there's two things to the person does well, probably will do well getting away from Lincoln.
That especially.
And then there is the player that just hasn't clicked for a couple of years, and hopefully he goes somewhere else where he can click and you can go, okay, that's the guy that maybe I saw glimpses as a junior at Lincoln East.
Go get him, kid.
And there might be now there's something there. And he's somewhere balling. And you know what? Whether you drop down to FCS or Group of 5, the NFL will find you. Mm-hmm. If you can ball out, the NFL will find you.
Yeah. And you started earlier this morning about former players that come back and how much beloved they are. Not saying I'm putting them in that same, as we were talking about Ali Batenhorst and Adrian Martinez, but what you said, people will root for him because they want to see him succeed. And sometimes in sports, but in life, it does you good to get away from home. It forces you to go find yourself and grow as a person. And I'm saying that as someone, I wasn't an athlete, obviously, I'm breaking news here, but who got away from home, and it shaped the rest of my life. And if I had stayed home, I'm very honest about that personally, that wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he finds the best situation for him. And he, like you said, he balls out, and then he's a dude.
And, you know, I mean, a thing that his teammates never really brought him up. I know coaches will bring up players, but I like to hear their peers bring them up. Like some of the older guys. I never heard that. So in this case, this is how the portal's supposed to work. He wasn't going to play at Nebraska. They were recruiting over him. And now he's got an opportunity to get a fresh start somewhere else away from Lincoln, which I actually think will benefit him.
Big time. Absolutely.
And there is the 105. I mean,
not the freeway.
Some coaches will use it as a scapegoat. Others will use it as an opportunity to kind of, I don't know, fix, I'm not going to say it was a mistake, but fix things where you make it good for your program and you make it good for the player that will no longer be the part of your program, because they're taking up a spot, and there's just not very many spots. I mean, we're talking 105, which you can't have very many, you can't have many people sitting in the back of the bus when you got 105. You got to have a lot more people that are either driving that bus or sitting in the first couple of rows. You can have some people sitting in the middle of the bus. You can't have many people sitting back in the back by the bathrooms. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey man, that's cool back here. I don't worry about the stench. That's fine. I got lots of leg room. You can't have that many of those. And when you're down at 105.
And it does no service to the kid either.
No.
They want to get out. They want to progress as a player and a person.
You'll find out when the roster is shrunk who really wants to play. I think when they went live with the new OC, he basically, Rule probably gave him some tips on, I'm not so sure on that guy, but he's playing a lot. You pick and you tell me.
Take a look.
And Dana basically said, show me why you should be playing. And then new guys or guys that had not been playing a lot and had been pissed off because guys that are not being held accountable were playing above them said, here's my shot. Look at the snap distribution over the last 3 games. And then I'll tell you about where Nebraska's going on that side of the ball with guys that are like, hell yeah, I'm here to play. Screw this. I got a whole middle of the season, late in the season, I got a whole new life.
Rebirth.
Yeah, what more could you want if you're in that camp? Hey, guys walking in. I don't know any of you.
Mhm.
Show me what you got.
Oh, and how rare is that middle of the season? Not even middle of the season, the end of the season to have that rebirth. So for all the guys like Malachi Coleman that we talk about the guys that are getting this rebirth that you're going to see do big things. If they haven't already, you'll see them do big things Friday or in the bowl game, which then springboards you to 2025.
Hey, you're playing for your job. You want your job for
Show
now
me.
and next year? Yeah,
I got you.
that's what it is. It's called competition. But why wasn't that happening earlier? That's another little red flag that I have that about accountability of a headset over a helmet. All right, 8:41, quick break. BC's coming up top of the hour, AK as well. It's Alphabet Soup in the last hour of the Gary Sharp Show, where Jimmy and Peter are with yours truly on this fine Tuesday morning at 1620 The Zone. Hey, this is a reminder. The College World Series will be here before you know it.
They're setting up the village as of tomorrow.
Here is Tony, who joins us on the show on the 42 Degree of the Source hotline. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to
Same
you
to
as
you.
well and your family.
Thank you. You guys as well. Appreciate it. I'm going to give a hot tip here for betting on Friday, and it's because of what we're about to talk about. I love the money line at plus 175 for the Huskers because I like the direction they're going, and it's because of what I'm about to ask. Are we going to see a lot of Fedoni? And here's why I bring this up. I'm not sure that the best guys were playing until now, and I'm not sure that competition was really heated until now. And that's why I like Nebraska's chances the rest of the year, because I believe, and this includes the coaches, that nobody feels their roster spot is safe right now. And that is one good thing. If you have employees who feel that they have to do a certain area of work or they're not going to be allowed to stay, that's going to make for hardworking employees. That's just how life goes. And when it comes to Nebraska football, I'm not sure we've had accountability when it comes to earning your spot on the field. So when it comes to Fedoni, are you under the impression there's going to be a little less playing time there now?
I think Saturday was pretty telling. I mean, is he going to get the Tommy Hill treatment? I mean, Fedoni can't play at the level that he wants to play at, and you would think that position would be a nice position in Dana's new offense to feature. I think it Tony, you know the situation. It feels like we're headed towards, man, just a change of scenery would benefit everybody when it comes to Fedoni. I don't know what his snap count would look like on Friday, but I mean, I don't know. Does he get the Tommy Hill treatment, or does he just get the, you know what? The two guys have showed me why they should be playing at tight end, and they fit what we're doing better, and we just got to move on.
Agree. Yeah. And when it comes to all the guys that have played there before that have had success, I think this puts a little bit of a smile on their face. Not that they want anybody to not succeed, but they just want it to be like it used to be, which is what's going to make the program great again, where we're just going to have to play the best guys. We appreciate all you've done, and maybe we can get you a better spot somewhere else, and it'll work out for everybody.
Tony, do you think Matt Rule has been way too nice?
Oh, sure. But I think Matt felt some serious pressure after the UCLA and USC losses, and nobody is safe down there anymore. Heads will roll because we got to get out of the rut we're in.
Yep.
So I think Matt said, "Hey, I gotta make some changes.
Yep.
I got to do what's best for the team and what's going to be best for me moving forward."
Tony, I appreciate the call. Good stuff. Thank you.
See you guys. Bye.
So, there's a lot of truth-telling that's going on in Lincoln, and it's great that DJAF is here.
He's got to get that on his chain that he wears.
And that attitude. Yeah, by the way, that picture I tweeted out when he first got here, I'm glad that everybody's sharing it. That's okay.
It needs more love.
His attitude is helping on offense, and we like his being fresh. Like, he'll speak again today. It's coordinator day in Lincoln. But of all the truth-telling, sometimes there's way too much truth that's being told. And I know Rule has spent a lot of time on the defense, and he has a great deal of respect for Satterfield that he just kind of let him handle the offense, which we're finding out now was a mistake. And I agree with Tony. When you started to get squeezed, you had to change your personality. But you can't be a fake to the guys in the room that all of a sudden, oh, I see, we lost to UCLA, and now this guy's Dana is the best thing that happened. Dana could be that guy because nobody knows Dana. And then they're like, oh, that's exactly what I need. But in terms of accountability of players that were playing and not playing, how come? Because we're talking more on practice week, not games. Where was the head coach to say, hey, Sat, that guy isn't giving us everything that he should. Is there somebody behind him? Where was the head coach saying that? Then because they take the lead to the head coach. What he wants, they do. It's changed now with Dana. Why? Where was the? Well, if coach isn't going to say anything, we just keep playing him. We'll just keep playing him. Or was it the younger players that went to the head coach and said, "Hey, I don't know if you're watching what we're doing, but I'm out here busting my ass, and I'm doing everything that's asked, and Coach, man, we got a room where guys are playing that shouldn't be playing, but the guys that play hard and do the right thing and they execute in practice aren't even getting on the field on a regular basis." I wonder if that happened. Because accountability changed pretty quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't be just a Holgorsen thing. Had to be somebody inside the room said, whoa. What are we doing here?
Nothing's not given.
But then where's the head coach in this? How come it took a guy off the street to do this and not the head coach? Or was Rule like, you know what? I can't all of a sudden be the bad guy. I can't just all of a sudden be the villain. I can't be the heel. Can you?
Or does it send a message to the players? Look, I needed to fix it. I'm not above fixing it. This is not about my ego. This is about you guys. This is about getting it right.
Because now in the last two games, but even more so on Saturday, guys are doing their job. Okay? So part of Tony's and what we said, a sense of urgency, fighting for your job, fighting for a spot on the 105. All of a sudden you get squeezed and you're like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. And the accountability part. Why did it take until post UCLA to have accountability? Just think, hey, man, let's get to year 2. Let's just get a bowl bid, and then we'll work on year 3.
But what if you don't get?
I mean,
what if you finish 5 and 7 again?
Dana Holgorsen, the most valuable player in the program,
change the season
for 2024, and the guy's been here for 3 weeks.
Look at the different conversations we're having this week versus what the alternate reality could have had. Would have been, you talk about tension conventions, it would have been uncomfortable going into Friday because you're looking at 5 and 6, having to win there on a 20-degree night. Like a lot of people would have been like, hey, go Big Fred, right?
And I think there would have been names in the portal of young offensive guys that you would have gone, hold on here. What you talking about? I mean, a Ja'Cory Barney, those type of players who pay that man whatever it takes because he will get some suitors in what he does next year.
Could Red Bull becoming a Memorial Stadium?
They got a swag. They got a swag. They have made it where people want to be part of it. Can they do that on defense as well next year with the younger guys? Because it's the younger guys that are responding on offense for the most part. BC, Brian Christopherson coming up next. We will talk basketball because BC was there on Friday night when the GBR chant started. And the guy that I would like to know who that is, because I would be willing to take him. He could sit with me in my seats at PVA. The guy that was chugging beer.
Yes, all over his beard. Oh.
I heard he was standing for most of the game, just annoying people around him. But then he chugged beer.
My kind of guy.
I'd like to know who that guy is, and I think I could take that guy to a game in Lincoln. Maybe he already goes to games in Lincoln.
Meet up?
But BC was there. We will talk about that and what it means for Nebraska basketball moving forward. They play tomorrow against South Dakota. Don't forget Creighton and San Diego State today in Vegas, 1 p.m. Creighton is a 3.5-point favorite against Mr. Dutcher and his young team. And Creighton will be looking for revenge from 2 years ago. I can't even hype that. I hope TBS does. Hope TBS on the TV does not go there and go, you know what, the last time they met, this is a chance for Creighton to. No, you'll never make up for what happened in Louisville on that Sunday. BC's coming up next on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, Feast Week in college basketball. One of the wildest and best days at the Maui Invitational. UConn goes down. Auburn rallies to beat Iowa State. An incredible win by Auburn because it took them 2 flights to get to Hawaii, and they stayed together as a team, came back and won. And then North Carolina rallied from 21 down last night to beat Dayton.
We are so back. Love the Maui.
Lots of basketball. I love this week because basketball begins like at 11 a.m. and goes throughout the night. And a great opportunity to talk to Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7, who's dabbling in both. He joins us now. Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, good to be here, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Walk us through. I want to start with basketball.
Okay.
You've covered hoops, and you've covered this rivalry. And when Darren DeVries, before he left to go to Drake, now at West Virginia, this was like his week. He would put together the defensive game plan, the game plan, period. This was like his moment. He leaves, but Creighton still has the intensity in this game. I look at Friday night. There's a guy named Nate Lesnar who, if people see what the social media crew put out, there's a clip at 5:41 on the cinematic recap that is so Nate about he's in the middle of the huddle and he's like, you're prepared, and on and on and on. He's taken on the game plan for this game, and it's basically been the same game plan for 3 years of packing it in the front and the back. Let them shoot. It's a make or miss sport. If they miss, we're going to do our job. We're going to win the basketball game. So it looked like Nebraska, for the first time in a while, BC, they want, and I'm not saying they didn't in the past, but they wanted it more than Creighton. Am I onto something here?
I don't want to go all the way with it, but I will say, if you looked at Nebraska's non-con, even months before the season, you saw this week of St. Mary's and CU at, within like a 6-day span. And I think everybody kind of looked at it and said, they got to get one, because the rest of the non-con maybe doesn't give you those type of resume games that are on a TV graphic, when you get to February. And so I feel like Nebraska probably left that game in Sioux Falls against St. Mary's really thinking we got something here, but we let that one slip. And they did. They grabbed a lead in that game, and then they had 4 or 5 possessions where they turn it over. Bryce gets his 4th foul with 12 minutes left, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So they're thinking we got a good team, but we got to capitalize now. And you heard from Hoiberg, Jawan Gary became not just that dog on the court, but off the court with this team last week, and that was a big deal. And then the point you're making, I think there's a little extra sometimes. When you go on the road in this rivalry, at least recently too, I think, I don't know, maybe you play a little more loose. You're not always expected to Nebraska certainly wasn't expected to be the team that came out on top. They're 10.5-point underdogs, and I just felt like Nebraska had a looseness to it, and they just followed the game plan to a T on defense. And Hoiberg said yesterday he's maybe never had a team that just executed the plan just like it was supposed to be to give yourself a chance the way they did on Friday night. So a year ago in Lincoln, Creighton got the paint and behind the arc all to themselves. And Nebraska was dedicated to, you might hit some shots, we're going to make you hit shots. You're not having the paint. And they did everything they could to take it away and really succeeded at it. Nate Lesnar deserves a lot of credit, and I'm glad he's getting it.
BC, the numbers are still stunning. I just can't. We were out of town, and when we checked on what was going on in the game, I thought my phone was on the fritz. It's 31-13. They hold Kalkbrenner to 4 points, and then I had to reread his only field goal attempt was a 3-pointer. How does that get done? This guy scored 49 points. He's a really good player, one of the best in the Big East, could be player of the year, and Nebraska made him look like he played for Lipscomb.
Yeah, incredible stat line. It was just, great work by it started with Braxton Mia, and the TV broadcast caught a clip of it. Mia played about 3 minutes and came off, and he was winded, like he had given all for 3 minutes, and it felt like that was his order. Like, go out there whenever you give your 3 or 4 minutes, and you just got to put it all out there and come back basically without your breath, but you put everything on the floor. And then Andrew Morgan would come in and try to do his part, and Burke. But then the way they would collapse around him on the backside, really, kind of had him sandwiched. And so the guards did a really nice job helping out. All the bigs, I think, really took to the challenge and embraced it. And it was an amazing performance, because Kalkbrenner is going to have a great season, of course. He is a really good player, and Nebraska got a lot of respect for him. I know before the game, Hoiberg said he's like a video game right now. And so that sometimes gets your team's attention too, going back to Gary's question, about just being ready for it and maybe having that extra. You see a guy who's being talked about as player of the year for this and that, and you want to go show, I can hold up against him. And I felt like Nebraska sort of had that mindset in that game.
Yeah, there would have never been a moment where Friday morning we said, who will have more field goals, John Hull or Ryan Kalkbrenner this weekend? but that was the case. I'm glad you brought this up. I don't think we can give enough flowers. The game plan and Nate dialing it in to the players, I don't think we can give enough credit to the players that followed through on the scout. They never deviated. They stayed the course. They never got lazy. They never went hero ball. They never tried to cut corners when it came to defense. They stuck with their assignments for a full 40 minutes. Now, they also benefited that Creighton didn't hit shots. It's crazy that Creighton took 42 threes and only 10 twos. But that's on Creighton. It's a make or miss sport. This story Friday night was more about Nebraska, in my opinion. But I just think another thing, BC, that you wrote about, when Creighton made it interesting and you could feel the building turning, because that building will help Creighton immensely, Nebraska always had an answer. I think it's one of Fred's best overall performances, from the guys in polos to the guys that are wearing shorts that night.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing is they only had 7 turnovers, so they never let CU get it, really running, and so it really got slowed down on that end of the court. And then there were these moments, you got to have them in games like this, where even on your worst possessions, you find a way. And like Jawan Gary early in the second half, Nebraska's having kind of an eyesore of a possession, and he hits a 3, and then puts it up to 14. And then this is where it helps, and Fred's been recruiting or building his roster this way the last 3 years, to have guys, even if they're new together, who have played college basketball for 4 or 5 years, they don't get frazzled in certain circumstances. Like Raleigh Wooster had 2 bad turnovers suddenly with about 6 or 7 minutes left, but he's played, 100 plus games, and he comes down with the chance to put the nail in the coffin, and he hits a jumper, and then he gets another bucket. So just sort of like that, I've been here, done that, is kind of on this roster. Nonetheless, in this portal era, I feel like every squad's got to have a game like this in late November, early December, where you're still figuring how each other responds in certain circumstances when things are against you or you're in a tough environment. And that's why this one's so big for Nebraska, and you hope they can build off of it, because, they've got a game at Michigan State coming up pretty soon. Indiana is also early on the schedule. So tough stuff is still around the corner, but this is going to fuel their belief, like, hey, we've done this together. And now you start to build your own identity. Like, maybe it's easy for us. We enjoyed that team last year so much that covered it and watched it. Like, we still think of Casey and some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to have that game where you've kind of moved the conversation a little bit, where you see Connor Esigian moving without the ball, and maybe he's a different version of Casey, but you're like, I like how that looks. And you start talking about him more than what was. And, at Burke, I think if anybody in the St. Mary's Creighton week had the best week of basketball that kind of influenced me in believing more in how this team can come together, it's Burke, and just seeing the different things he could do. I kind of wondered if he could or thought he could, but hadn't seen it yet. And for a week, I think you saw on display, like, yeah, he's got the traits that can help in different ways for this team.
Okay, I'm a fan. let's say you're trying to convince me that this isn't a one-off deal and this is something they can build off of. Which side of the fence is it? What do you think is the more realistic deal here? Because I want to go all in. I want to believe. And when I see those numbers, I feel that. However, I don't want to get burned again.
Well, I mean, every team now has got to go prove it because you're kind of a remodeled roster. So I wouldn't tell a fan just like, necessarily write anything in pen, but they at least, I think, got us started down the road of like, okay, I'm sitting up now in my chair and I'm starting, like I said, I'm starting to think about newer guys on this team and what they can do. And you're moving on a little bit from last year's conversation, but you still have that nice mix of Jawan and Bryce. And that I wrote this on our board during that game. If you one reason to believe is there are going to be nights and at times Friday was like this, where Jawan and Bryce are the best two players on the court. It wasn't the whole game, but there are times where that can be the case because those guys are just so experienced and have done a lot of things. And that's always in your back pocket too. And so you got that base point to build on. And then if Burke comes along, and I think the big thing is people want to see this team hit a few more shots behind the arc. If you had told me going in, Nebraska was going to hit, would they hit 4 or 5 from 3? It wasn't like Nebraska lit it up or anything. But, they still found a way with other parts. But I think that's the one area because they hit 9.4 threes per game last year. And right now they're more around 5. So you'd like to see that kind of get a little bump. So that's maybe one area where folks want to see that come around and combine it with the other things of the last week.
Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 joining us. All right, let's shift to football. What was the thing that stood out the most about either the vibe, the personnel, the play calling, or the result of the offensive performance on Saturday?
What stood out to me was let's just use a snapshot example of the drive near the end of the first half. Where Nair thinks he has a touchdown. They review it. It's not. And I don't know how you guys felt, but I'd already seen throughout that game, it's like, man, they're playing with confidence and rhythm, and they're building off of last week. I think they're going to score. Like I still thought that they're going to put that thing in there. And, they get the third down penalty call. It was an obvious call, so it wasn't like it was a gift or anything. They earned it. And then Banks makes the catch, and I was like, I'm not surprised they did that. And then, I know Matt Rule mentioned, like, I think Dana's brought as much as anything a swagger. Yeah, he's a good play caller, but he brings that swagger. And I understand what he's saying there. But I think on the series in the third quarter, when people remember it really well, is a 7-play, like 74-yard drive to make it 34-10, and just everything clicked. It was the one where you get Barney on a run for like 11. You hit Borkercher on a very safe, easy pass that should get 5, and he busted out for 19 and all that. And then the third down play where Emmett gets it down inside the 5. The whole thing was just so easy how it looked. And everybody knew what they were supposed to do. And Holgorsen was in his bag. Wisconsin was on its skates. And it's just like, man, this is different than when you think about a month before. And I know Nebraska's playing some tough teams in October that are going to be in the playoffs. But nonetheless, there was just such a confidence on that drive that they were going to finish it. And remember, after the Indiana game, Rule said in the post game, it just looks hard. Everything looks kind of hard right now. And so that was my thought, is everything looks really easy right now. That, 6 possessions in a row you score against Wisconsin. I know it's not Wisconsin from 10 years ago, but that's a defense that's a proud group and gave up 16 to Oregon. So it can't say enough about week 2, game 2 of Holgorsen to get it to that level.
How do you calm yourself down just to continue? I know it's the obvious, well, yeah, I mean, it's not over yet. You got to get a win, but these are human beings. You're going to enjoy everything that was on Saturday, and now you're doing this on a short week in a tough road environment on a cold night.
I think that's a great question because I do think it's going to be the biggest challenge. It's like, okay, that was great. Bring it down now. Like, this is what can be better. This is what Iowa does better than Wisconsin that's going to take away this, and really convince your guys as smooth as it was, and as much as we expected to do this against Wisconsin, this is what I was going to try to take away. And every game is its own animal, and so you have to have different answers for adversity that pops up. And I think you really nail home too. Like Rule hit the quote yesterday about the pain of that Iowa caused Nebraska and the seniors that didn't go to a bowl last year, and waving and saying Merry Christmas on the way off the field when that field goal just inches over the crossbar. That should be enough fuel right there. It's funny, when I've been covering it long enough that I remember when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, and Nebraska's program and fan base was still kind of in that mode of like, this team goes for national championships or goes to be in the top 10, not to compete for trophies, the Big Ten trophies. There was a little bit of sarcasm about some of the trophies and stuff like that. It's all that way until you watch another side run across on your field with them chanting, and they hold that thing up and they run it off. It could be a sandwich that's half eaten that's sitting over on a, like on a pedestal that's the prize.
I could get behind this.
If 50 guys from Iowa run over on your field or Wisconsin and they pick up that sandwich and are passing it around, you're like, what the stink? You don't like that. So I think those things have become really cool. Like, maybe they're not the coolest trophies in the league, but I think it matters that there's that at stake and there's that visual that goes with it. And Nebraska guys who have been here long enough know what it felt like 2 years ago when they took that trophy in Iowa City and walked it across the field. So I'd hit that drum too.
If I said Nebraska's going to play a team on Friday night who's got a running back who's really good, nearly 1,500 yards rushing, over 1,000 yards after contact. When he goes over 100, that's good for Iowa. When you hold him under 100, that's good for you. That defense that's going to try and stop Caleb Johnson is 21st in the country in run defense. Whew, at least Iowa's not going to throw the ball down the field because they have a quarterback that probably that's not his strength. That's okay because Nebraska is 66th in total pass defense. Is that a good thing for Nebraska if you're using the last couple of games when you say, oh, they're built to stop a guy like Caleb Johnson?
Well, it can be, but you have more concern. You don't say it with as much confidence right now because I don't feel like the run fits have been great. We went into the Wisconsin game, and I think people are kind of knocking down Braden Locke and thinking, well, he's not going to do much. And, RPO stuff had it pretty easy sometimes throwing the football. So I don't think, for one, we can just count necessarily that I was going to have no passing game. And two, Nebraska's got to hit their fits a lot better and just be a lot more sound. And it's strange how this works sometimes. We've seen this a lot, and I guess this probably just happens across the country. But you think one thing's good and the other thing's the weakness that you're worried about, then the other thing pops up and becomes a little bit of a strength you're feeling confident about, and the other thing goes down a couple levels. And so that's where we're at now, where it's like there's kind of this enthusiasm and like, okay, what can the offense do now and build? Whereas you're a little bit worried about the defense and some of the sore spots you've seen the last few weeks. So they're going to need to play better on the back end too. I mean, I know Iowa's not, like we say, a great passing offense, but I just feel like it's been way too easy for teams. There's been miscommunication there, and you've seen it with the run fits. You've seen it in pass coverage. And so they've got to tighten some things up. And the other thing, we've seen this a lot in the Nebraska-Iowa game. There's been times in this rivalry where Nebraska has stuffed the run pretty good for large portions of the game, but Iowa will stick with it. And then there's that stretch play or whatever, and it's just that all of a sudden you think you got it bottled in. It's another 2-yard gain, and he pops out the other end, and it's 60 yards. We've seen that a lot in this rivalry. So it has to be a deal where, sort of like Nebraska's defensive game plan against Creighton in basketball, there can't be any let up. It's got to be from start to finish, because Iowa's a team that will just keep pounding, and eventually that they think that wall will fall down. And history shows us that a lot of times it has in this rivalry.
BC, as always, we appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving. Are you leaving on Thanksgiving, or are you driving over on Friday?
No, it's kind of cool. We're leaving Friday.
Nice.
So yeah, it's the 6:30 kickoff works well for us. So it's kind of a new adventure. But yeah, I look forward to it. At least we're talking about too, as a side topic, like the bowls Nebraska
Yeah.
could go to and stuff. Like you take that stuff for granted. I always tell Brunson Schaefer, like, I miss writing like a Tuesday bowl notebook on December 10th, and so
Yeah.
it's nice that that's back in play.
Yeah, and you know what? There's usually, now this is the first time with Rule. Usually when you covered bowl practices, they were open. The entire practice was
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, we'll see. This is a new month for everybody. This is going to be one of the stranger months I've been on the beat. I mean, with the roster needing to come down the way it is, a bowl game that is somewhat familiar, but it feels so distant because we haven't done it so long, and so you get used to that again. Well, guys are going in the portal, and there's it's going to be a wild month.
It will be. BC, as always, thank you.
Yep, thanks, guys.
You got so signing day. I think they still call it,
I
but
think
you
so.
don't sign a letter of intent. So it's signing day, December 4th. You'll know your bowl destination probably before then. Then the portal opens on December 9th.
Oh, portal
You
madness.
start practicing. Let's say Nebraska's going to the Music City. You're probably going to go down, I don't know, maybe the day before Christmas.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Or, in the past, this was back in the 90s, they'd let guys go home and then they could fly to the bowl site.
Mhm.
And then you're going to have some decisions on, do you have to make some staff changes? Are there going to be guys that take other jobs? You got to fill them. And there's going to be a lot of moving parts in the next month that will dictate where Nebraska is going into 2025. I mean, it'll be daily content surrounding college football and in particular Nebraska once we reach December.
Which is way better than a year ago. And then the questions and conversations, like I said earlier, that we would have had things gone the other way. It's way more fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun to figure out how less money Nebraska has to pay Dana because Houston's going to pay.
They got money.
They'll take care of him, though. I mean, it's not like they're like, oh, hey, Dana, you're still making this, and this. What if we give you like $250?
Yeah.
You
want your own meal, amigos?
They got money to pay, but could Dana attract some big names in the business that would want to work with him at Nebraska? Andy Kendi, big name in the business. He's going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes with Peter, Jimmy. I'm Gary on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone.
Yes. 1620 The Zone teaming with Share Omaha for Giving Tuesday 2024. A day to celebrate what the Metro can do together in just 24 hours. Donate now through December 3rd to support your favorite local nonprofit. All the details can be found at 1620thezone.com. Where'd the music go? A great song.
We can bring it back.
Everybody loves that one.
California.
Especially on a cold morning in Omaha.
What?
Yeah.
Peter, just keep going.
Yeah.
Why'd you leave it at
Yeah,
that?
karaoke.
We'll just sing the rest of the show.
Do it in as a William
Sorry,
Shatner
Andy. We'll get
voice.
to you next time.
Hey, I don't know that if you have a singing career or that's something you'd like to do. I may have found a dream job for a youngster like yourself.
Oh, what do we got?
So when I was in college in the Daily Nebraskan, there would be Harris Labs. And, you could donate blood, or you do sleep studies where, on the weekends, you'd go out to this lab in Lincoln and they'd pay you money and you would sleep and they would put things on your body and they'd stare at you. So I saw another one come across my timeline yesterday where you can get paid to nap. Sounds like a dream job.
Whoa.
So
The
it's
past 2 years would have been
30,
profitable.
30 straight days you take a nap. Now, there was some information that was missing. But it's 30 straight days where you nap and then you write about it and you make $1,500 a month.
Really?
Now, there's probably I had a friend that went and did this because he was desperate for money and he couldn't donate plasma anymore. So he went and did all these studies. Like he had to stay up for like 36 hours one time, but they would put little things on your head to monitor and all that stuff. So I'm thinking it's not just take a nap for 30 days straight and then write about it and make $1,500. Might be drugs involved. Might be some things attached to your body.
Sounds like college.
But what a dream job. You get paid to nap.
You taught me the beauty of the grandpa nap. So, and you know what? If I have to write about it, I can put my journalism degree to good use. I need to look into this. This is a great idea.
This job, though, has screwed me up in perfecting the nap outside of Monday through Friday. Because I used to be able to fall asleep in a car, fall asleep on a plane.
You're a cat.
I can't. I want so badly flying home to fall asleep, and I couldn't. And then usually on planes, I'm fine. I get the window seat, lean up.
Yeah.
Now I'm scared that if I'm on the aisle or in the middle, if I fall asleep, I'm gonna
The head will go.
Well, you start, and then you got a little drool.
Yeah.
But then you like all of a sudden you're falling on the person next to you. So only if I'm next to the window will I make sure that I got a nap. I go through my process of how I fall asleep. But now I can't nap. I can't nap anywhere outside of during Monday through Friday when I go home.
That's a good point. I need to kind of revisit some of my weekends here. You're not hungover? Yeah, I don't know if I can.
Thinking about the last time I was on a plane and I dozed off and I was on the aisle seat and I was woken up by the woman bringing the snack cart down the aisle because I had fallen asleep, head totally fully in the aisle, like my leg completely blocking it, and just drool everywhere. I mean, I must have been out like 10 minutes into the flight because I have no memory of even falling asleep.
I hope no one took a picture of you.
Oh, I'm sure someone did. I looked ridiculous.
Not as
Probably
bad
not
as-
even someone I was with.
We're
Just
on
a
the-
total stranger.
Team bus to St. Louis, and this is why I would never fall asleep on the women's basketball trips. Our compliance guy was snoring so loud that I like my music loud, and I know I'll pay for this later in life, but I could hear the snoring over really loud music. So coach took a big book in the aisle of the bus and slammed it down. Dude slept right through it. I heard it. They tried to watch a movie on the TV. You couldn't hear it.
Out.
Yeah.
There is news in college football that has just broken during our discussion here about our dream job. I don't know that it was Mac Brown's dream job, but Mac Brown has publicly stated that he intended to remain the coach at North Carolina. Mac Brown has been fired by North Carolina.
Oh,
Wow. Stay long enough to become the villain.
I mean,
his job status changed about 4 times this season.
North Carolina, they reached a height and then they started to drift back, and they've had a terrible season. For North Carolina standards on where they should be, but he was going to stick it out. And it's like that person that won't leave your house, but you don't know what to do. Do you call the authorities? Do you do it your own? Do you physically just remove them from your house, that relative that comes for the holidays and stays?
But it's December 4th. Thanksgiving was over a week ago.
Or you say, hey, yeah, you can crash here for a couple of nights. And next thing you know, it's a couple of weeks. Like Mac Brown has been pretty adamant that he is going to remain the head coach at North Carolina. He has now been fired, and that probably will be the end of a pretty good coaching career for Mac Brown. And it also, the dominoes falling for good jobs. Florida probably won't change hands.
Sorry, Brian Edwards.
Don't know what's going to happen at Florida State. Probably won't change hands. I mean, LSU, Michigan's trying to flip another one of their recruits. There may not be like big time jobs open this cycle, but the North Carolina job I think is fairly attractive.
It's a good job.
It's the first power conference job that has opened up in this cycle. I don't know. I think UNC football can be a really attractive job, but I also think this. So you got to keep an eye. If you have a good OC or DC, you're probably going to pay to retain them, because with this athlete sharing concept coming in, and then these huge buyouts, you may not see as many coaches fired this offseason, but OCs and DCs are fired, and then you make a big splash money hire in those roles.
Carolina should hire Andy Kotelnicki, and there's no ulterior motive to that. That's why he went to Penn State to possibly be a head coach.
Jimmy, people in the Carolinas can't pronounce that last name. They can't have that guy as their head coach.
Kotelnicki.
Who's this guy?
Andy. We'll just call him Andy.
They can't hire him in North Carolina.
Well, I do think a Big Ten job would be
simple names: Smith, Guthridge, Williams.
That's why Matt Doherty didn't last. How do you pronounce the H in that?
Doherty.
Mac Brown. Easy to pronounce. Mac Brown.
Tony White? What? No, that's not going to happen.
I
kid because I love.
Andy Kenny's going to join us here in a little bit. It is the second day of the high school state championships. The news this morning: Tim Williams is no longer the head football coach at Papillion La Vista. Also, I've not seen an update. Connor Booth, who is headed to Nebraska, Connor Booth's going to be the player of the year in the state of Nebraska, the running back from Bishop Neumann. 2,906 yards. He's got 49 touchdowns. Damn. He's headed to Nebraska. No one ever projects him to be part of Nebraska's offense next year, which kind of curious. But he'll be the player of the year in the state of Nebraska. I don't think there will be anybody else that will challenge him for that. He is, I think, a game time decision. He was knocked out due to injury in the semifinal. So AK is going to join us here in a little bit. Also, prepare yourself if you're into youth sports in Omaha. Omaha is about to go viral with an incident that happened over the weekend over at Liberty Middle School.
I just caught the video last night.
Yeah, so it's been shared quite a bit, and now local television stations are doing stories on it, and it will be picked up nationally. There was an incident involving a parent and an official over at Liberty Middle School in Papillion La Vista, or Papillion. It's the great guy, and I know this is tearing him apart, Mike Mackey, who runs Factory, one of the basketball organizations here in town. I think it's their only time all year they put on a tournament, and they put out it's a heartfelt message about what happened. Now, this is what happened. A group of parents rushed the court towards an official. This is an 8th grade basketball game. The ball goes out of bounds, and the next thing you know, there is a parent, not from a local team. This is an out-of-state team that pushes the official and then punches the official. Some tried to stop the confrontation, but they had to call the police. They did arrest the individual that was involved, a 40-year-old gentleman, for misdemeanor assault on the referee. He did punch the referee. He posted a $1,000 bond on the misdemeanor to get out of the Sarpy County Jail on Saturday. That carries a possible sentence of probation, a fine, up to a year in jail.
And then we wonder why we've talked on this show about why there's a shortage in officials. And it's stuff like that, which is sad because there is a need for officials. And it's not like these guys are doing it for the money. You've talked about how they've had to move high school games days not because of scheduling conflicts, but because of official conflicts and their schedule.
So
this doesn't help.
The person that was arrested is from a Lincoln team, not a well-known Lincoln team. There are quite a few good organizations in Lincoln, but this is not from one of those. But this person was arrested. But now that the local media have started to do a story on this, it'll be picked up nationally.
Never good.
Yeah.
No.
So prepare yourself for just outrage towards youth sports in Omaha, if there already was not outrage towards youth sports. But this is BS to assault a referee. To assault a referee at this tournament. We've seen it happen before. It's happening way too often. Hell, Kevin Marr, who is from Omaha, works in the Big 12, works high school basketball.
He was assaulted by Shador Sanders Saturday.
He was assaulted in the Colorado-Kansas game.
And they probably told him you can't throw a flag on him, but he touched me. They're not supposed to touch the white hat or any ref.
Andy Ken from KATV is coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to welcome in our good friend Andy Candy from KTV, who, along with his colleague Lauren Michelson, nominated for Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year. Congratulations on the nomination. Well deserved for you, Lauren, in the Channel 7 Sports Department.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, Lauren, the original notification had her working at her old station, so I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Details.
Dave does a really good job with that organization, but Sam Mellinger got nominated as well from the Kansas City Star. Sam hasn't worked at the Kansas City Star for a while. He actually runs the media relations department for the Royals.
Oops.
I forget that even.
Yeah, it's still great to be nominated, and it's you've been there before. It's
great event.
Yeah, it's a great event. I mean, it's a hell of an award.
I got to tell you, Dave does a great job with that, and think about 50 states, and he's trying to organize all the finalists for the awards, not just in broadcast but for sports writers as well for the National Sports Media Association. And it is one of the few times, as you know, it's one of the few times that you get pampered and treated in like a king for the weekend. It's one of the great, more enjoyable weekends of my career. It's a fun event. And I say whoever wins, go. You just go.
Yeah. Yes.
Figure out a way to go and go and have a good weekend.
Cheerwine's good.
That's really
The event in Winston-Salem is fantastic. What if you were a college football fan and you were not a Big Ten fan, so you only paid attention to your team maybe in the SEC, but you got the opportunity to go and watch Nebraska play twice, Colorado and Wisconsin. What would you think about Nebraska football?
I would think, where are they going to land in the college football playoff poll? I mean, the way they played last week, I know, it was so cathartic to be there and to feel the energy in the stadium. I just thought that was one of the cooler moments in my 15 seasons covering that team, about how, first of all, the crowd, to its credit, didn't leave for the most part. I mean, there was a few empty seats towards the end, but man, fans could have bailed, but they stuck around to the end. It's like everybody was like, I've been waiting 8 years. I'm not leaving early. Are you crazy? But the way they've been playing, on one hand, it's like, thank goodness this bowl streak is over. Thank goodness they could beat Wisconsin. Kind of fitting that they beat one of their biggest rivals to get bowl eligibility. But the other thing, I think that the other element with Husker fans, and I know it because you talk to them every day, is they're like, oh my God, if we just had done this all season long, how good, where was this in week 7 and 8 and 9? But you know what? Take what you can get. It's been a heck of a ride, and at least now they can play loose and free going into Iowa. And I think this is a very gettable game on Friday, boys. I really do. I think they match up nicely with Iowa, and just all about the way they approach Friday night in the cold at Kinnick.
And now you and the team get to plan for a bowl trip to go work it. That's like the good old days.
I know, and we were speculating. It was so fun. I mean, you just take it for granted, but you're going over scenarios yesterday. We're BSing with other media members before Coach Rule talked yesterday, and it's just interesting to hear the chatter, because it's been so long since you could talk about this with certainty that you were really going to have to plan a bowl trip. Now, for our purposes, we were hoping that somehow they would get up to the Citrus Bowl, because that's an ABC game. But it looks like that's not going to happen. That Illinois is pretty much locked in. But I know more about Big Ten bowl games this week than I did last week. That's for sure.
You don't want to say it's all because of one man, but let's say it is all because of one man. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this? Like, guy comes off the streets, is calling plays, and he's making decisions, and all of a sudden, a side of the football that looked like it was stuck with cement shoes looks like they have a new life, and all of a sudden it's fun.
Yeah, unprecedented, right? Unprecedented in this day and age of college football. And I think this will be somewhat used as an example moving forward to other college football teams in seasons to come, because they will see, especially if they finish on a high note Friday in Iowa City and move the ball as effectively as they did against the vaunted Wisconsin defense. So I think that this is going to be served as a focus point. Like, hey, Nebraska did it a few years ago with Dana Holgorsen. He came in and turned that ship around, and look what they did in their final 3 games. I mean, to score 44 points, a season high against a team that only gave up 16 against the top-ranked team in the country. That's pretty good. I don't care how you slice it, and I don't care who was playing and who wasn't playing. That was a pretty good performance and the most complete performance of the season, and that's what made Saturday so rewarding, fellas. You guys saw. I mean, how many times did one facet, one unit sputter, whether it be the offense or defense or special teams or whatever? But at least for one day, for the most part, I know the defense wasn't perfect, and they gave up a bunch of big plays. But you know what? In the end, that was probably their most complimentary football of the season and probably their biggest moment of the season. And that comes down to kudos to the players, kudos to the coaches, and kudos to Matt Rule for pulling the trigger in a situation where he knew he had to fix something quick, and he did it. I mean, my goodness, this is going to go down as one of the great in-season decisions in this program's history. Honestly, I don't mean to overstate that. To go outside the box like this, to think about it. Think about if we were having this discussion 10 years ago, you would thought you're crazy. Like, how could you even consider this? Well, you couldn't because of the rules. but now with the rules the way they are, and you can have so many coaches on your sidelines and such, this is a possibility, and they proved that it can work.
Not to mention the sound bites have to be pretty good. I mean, I was interning back home when Parcells first coached the Cowboys, and that was the highlight of every practice, was going and hearing what he was going to say the next time. So now you get to hear Dana today. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth.
Well, it's great too, and it gives kind of Matt Rule the voice or outlet that Dana can say the tough things now, and because there is some benefit of having a guy who doesn't have as close a personal relationships, honestly, that can really speak his mind and not worry about hurting feelings, because I think that really kind of held the program back, because these guys are so close and it is a family, but that can work where a position coach doesn't want to really hammer a guy in his own room and because he's afraid of losing him. Dana comes in and he's like, you know what? I don't know these guys. I'm all about football. This guy's not making the play. You're sitting on the bench. You're going to bring in another guy in, or this guy jumps off sides or false starts. You're going to sit on the bench, or this guy fumbles. We're going to bring somebody who's going to that can hold on to the football. So I think it's refreshing. And honestly, later on today is appointment viewership in terms of Dana Holgorsen and what he said.
Weather aside, yay or nay on the Black Friday game being in prime time?
I think it's great if for the fans. I do think it's great because it allows the fans to travel day up. We're actually going day up too, and that's something we've never done. But we do have a pregame special, boys.
I saw that.
I believe it's 8 hours before the game. We're going to run it at 10:30 on Black Friday morning. So I think it's good for the fans. For nobody cares about the media, so I'm not even going to whine about it. So it's cool. The challenge for us is probably trying to get a hotel after the game somewhere. But I think it's great for the fans. It's going to be on. You're going to get so many more eyeballs at 6:30 than you would at 11. Like Wisconsin's playing Minnesota on. For the Paul Bunyan's Axe. I've said that wrong before on the air. Paul Bunyan's Axe. And that's at 11. That's at 11, boys.
Ooh. That's usually like a 2:30 game.
Yeah, or maybe it's 2:30, but that's an early
11.
game. So, because it's 11, because then they're an NFL game on Black Friday.
Yeah.
So, I think it's so much better. You're going to get so many eyeballs on this game. And that's why, going back to the Dana thing, you don't think this is going to be a showcase for Dana Holgorsen? Like a showcase to show what he can do in 3 short weeks? I mean, my goodness. And so the opportunity is there to win the right to go to the Relia Quest Bowl. That's on the line on Friday night, because the winner will go to Tampa.
Just hear Keith Jackson with the intro right now.
He would recognize this Relia Quest or Relia Quest.
At an auto parts store downstairs of Lynn Swan to inform us.
It's going to be fun. Tampa, in fact, it's funny because Huskers were just there in Mass for the volleyball last year in Tampa, right. So it'd be great if they go. But I'll tell you, Nashville's pretty darn good too, as you guys know. What a great city, and that bowl has just gained momentum. The Music City Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl, both those bowls in the last 10 years have really kind of blossomed and spreading their wings in terms of being a destination for bowls. And if they go to Nashville, look out. There is going to be thousands and thousands making that roadie.
What did you learn about Creighton and Nebraska from Friday night?
Well, I learned Nebraska is much better than I had pegged them for, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And that defense travels, And if you play stingy defense, you're going to be in a lot of games. And my goodness, what a plan that they had. And props to I was more wowed by Nebraska than worried about Creighton. I mean, Creighton had a bad night. They lost their Ashworth. We're still waiting on how long he's going to be out and how that affects them moving forward. But I was just stunned at how well they neutralized Ryan Kalkbrenner for the one day, and kind of remind me of what they did to Zach Edey out of the game a year ago. And it really was a terrific game plan. And DeJuan Gary is a dog. That guy is a dog, and if that can continue, they're going to win a lot of games, and they're going to be there in March. And I know that the Creighton fans are quick to worry and panic, in terms of after one game, and I don't blame them after watching that. But I think they'll be able to right the ship. It's just a matter of who's going to step up and be that leader in Stephen Ashworth's absence, because they're going to need somebody to steady that ship, and we'll see who comes and really is the alpha of that team moving forward, because they got knocked down the other night, and time to dust off. And by the way, they play at 1:00 today, so that's going to be interesting.
Now is a 4.5-point favorite with Pop Isaacs playing the 1. It'll be
going to be interesting.
It will be a must tune in to see how that all comes together. Hey, have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. I'm glad you get to spend Thursday here in town, and have fun in Iowa City. I remember the last time Nebraska played at Iowa because it was or the last early kickoff. You were doing cut-ins on the morning, and I was like, "Oh, he looks so cold."
That was so cold. Yeah, it's funny because not only did I look so cold, I was so cold. There are a few places in the world I've been colder than Kinnick Stadium, and I expect to be the same on Friday.
Hey, look forward to your pregame, 10:30, right?
Yeah, 10:30 on Friday morning. Thanks, boys. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
That is
You too,
Andy from KTV. All right, that'll put a wrap on the show. Thanks, you two. You come back and do it again tomorrow.
I think so. I think I'll do it. Good to have you back.
Hey, I don't know if this is a leading question. Happer just texted me. He goes, "Want to do a crossover?" Hell yeah, I do after Friday night. Bring it, boys.
Wow. Respect to Happer. He's going to come get it.
Come get your beating. Come get your beating.
Yes, let's get all of it. And let's find out how Nick Grimm's night went in Vegas.
That's true. Them guys are killing it out there. Don't forget, Creighton basketball at 1 today. Tony and Dana speak today. We'll speak to you all tomorrow at 6 on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone.